It all starts on the day the world ended, when humanity's greatest power, the 9 stars, was utterly defeated by a mysterious force known as the Invaders. In the midst of that bloody battle, only 2 people remained standing. The strongest 9-star warrior, Xenon, wonders if they are the only ones left alive after that terrible ordeal. The defensive mage, Aerith Coven, sadly confirms it, saying that all their other companions are gone. She laments that Liliana, the prophet, and Galahad, the summoner, didn't stand a single chance against that terrible enemy. Xenon asks Aerith to focus entirely on defense, and she, worried, asks what he is planning to do next. He answers that his plan is pretty obvious. The warrior warns that he is going to land a hit on that absolute monster. Aerith warns that not even all the 9 stars combined could defeat him, but Xenon says that is no reason to back down. The warrior charges forward using the Holy Light style, 9th form, single blade of divine light. He then activates the 10th form of the same style, called Sanctification of the Light of Life, focusing all of his power. Aerith is surprised to see that he still hasn't given up the fight. Xenon charges with everything he has toward the monster. The creature raises its hand to block the strike. At that, Xenon delivers his blow using every bit of strength he has left, but it seemingly didn't work. As the monster was already about to strike back, Xenon yells Aerith's name so she can pull off her part of the plan. She says she is ready to go and begins casting her wind magic. Aerith creates floating stone platforms so Xenon can launch himself into the air and keep attacking from above. Thanks to her support, Xenon leaps quickly and manages to escape the enemy's devastating counterattack. He prepares to deliver another powerful blow, building up a massive amount of energy in his sword, and right after that, he manages to land a direct hit. Aerith is amazed by the absurd power of that technique and starts to hope they might actually win. However, she is shocked to see that the giant monster remained standing, without a single scratch after the hit. Xenon yells that the fight isn't over yet and tries to force his golden energy out once more to keep fighting. The effort is so intense that the warrior's body begins to fail, making him spit up a lot of blood. Aerith panics and screams for Xenon to stop, warning that his body won't be able to take another second of this stubborn as always. Xenon yells that he doesn't care about the damage and keeps building up power, even on the verge of collapsing. Seeing his stubbornness, the mage laments the situation and decides to take drastic action to save him. She grips her staff tightly, preparing to cast a spell that will change the course of that tragic battle. Aerith casts the Light Prison and immobilizes Xenon, who is completely lost and angrily asks what she is doing. The mage says he is their last hope to save the world and that she won't let him end his journey here. Xenon complains, saying that if they don't defeat that monster right now, everyone will end up wiped out anyway. Aerith responds that is exactly why she is trusting everything to him, because she knows he can change that hopeless future. Xenon is surprised to see an antique pocket watch, as she explains that it is a magical heirloom from her family. She says there is no time for detailed explanations, while a massive red magic circle glows above them. Aerith asks Xenon to promise that next time, he won't let those horrible enemies win. She begs him to do it for everyone they lost, leaving the warrior confused about what she plans to do. Aerith says she is leaving the world in his hands as their last hope, while he begs to be let go so they can fight together. The gigantic red magic circle activates, about to destroy everything, while Xenon is sent away to safety crying heavily. Aerith bids Xenon a final farewell as he is enveloped by the magical glow of the watch. I am so sad for my waifu, I hate seeing her cry. A huge pillar of blue light cuts through the sky and hits the ground, marking the moment the teleportation magic is activated. The giant monster releases its destructive attack with the red magic circle, completely devastating the battlefield. In the midst of the chaos, the golden pocket watch falls to the ground, remaining on the dirt in the middle of that scene of pure destruction, fallen and seriously hurt. Aerith coughs up a lot of blood. Even though she is incredibly weak, she gives a slight smile of relief, realizing the transport spell actually worked. That pocket watch is a divine relic with the incredible power to reincarnate people and alter the fate of the world itself. Aerith knows Xenon will return to the past in a new life, and as someone else to have a chance to change that twisted reality. While the giant monster roars in victory, the mage makes one last mental plea. Begging him to save their world, Aerith wishes from the bottom of her heart that her final request comes true. If this Proto doesn't end up with her, I'm going to be absolutely furious. The monster then finishes everything by delivering a fatal blow. Elsewhere, Xenon yells Aerith's name as he wakes up with a start. He stands up in a fancy room, feeling a splitting headache and not understanding how he ended up there. The warrior wonders where he is, and if that noble mansion is the result of Aerith's magic watch. Still confused, he tries to make sense of what actually happened after the massive explosion in the final battle. A maid opens the bedroom door and, startled by his frantic behavior, asks if something is wrong. He demands a weapon to go back and fight the invaders, but the girl is confused and asks if young Master Noah had a nightmare. The young man finds the name Noah strange and asks who she is, and she shyly replies that her name is Lydia and she is his maid. Looking down at his own hands, he panics upon realizing that this is definitely not his original body. I really thought our Proto was going to go back in time in his own body. He wonders if he ended up possessing someone else's body, or if something even stranger is going on. He asks the maid where he is and who he is supposed to be, leaving poor Lydia even more startled and confused. Worried, Lydia approaches and asks if his high fever is making him hallucinate again. Impatient, the warrior grabs the maid by her shoulders and firmly demands that she answer his questions. She explains that this is the estate of the Daskul family and that he is Noah Daskul, the fourth son, leaving him shocked by the revelation. When he asks what year it is, Lydia replies that it is the year 850, which leaves him completely stunned and speechless. He realizes he was sent back in time thanks to the power of the magic watch Aerith used to save him from being wiped out. He calculates that he reincarnated exactly 10 years before the start of the Great War against the terrible invaders. To make matters worse, he ended up in the body of a member of the family that was the biggest rival of the Holy Swordsman, his old group. He is now the heir of the Daskuls, a feared bloodline known as the Ruthless Magic Swordsman. Right then, someone else knocks on the bedroom door, announcing herself as Selena. Another maid enters the room carrying a bowl with a dark liquid and mentions she brought the young master's medicine. He finds the medicine suspicious, and Lydia explains it is the usual dose that Master Skull lovingly prepared to look after his health. The young man holds the bowl suspiciously and stares at the mysterious liquid in silence for a few moments. Noah notices a dark, poisonous energy coming from the drink and immediately goes on high alert. This medicine is definitely spiked. He slams the bowl onto the floor, breaking it and spilling the poisonous liquid, which leaves both maids completely shocked. 3 mysterious men enter the room, greeting Noah as the young blade of the Daskul family, and he asks who they are. The long-haired man says he heard a suspicious noise and came in to check if everything was all right with the young master. He looks at the spilled medicine and asks how Noah could reject Master Skull's kindness, warning that he will prepare another dose right away. Noah angrily tells him not to mess with him, but the man fires back, asking if the fever made him lose his mind, as he won't tolerate insults to Master Skull. Noah challenges the man to drink the medicine himself, asking if he is refusing because it is poison. Noah knows his holy core reacts to impurities, and seeing the strange foam in the liquid, he is absolutely sure it is poison. Realizing he has been caught, the long-haired man coldly says he will just have to force the poison down the kid's throat. Noah notices with a smirk that the man's nice guy act has finally crumbled for good. Noah deduces they are his watchdogs and says this is perfect, as he really needed some practice to get used to this new body. With a confident and challenging look, he mockingly warns that he is going to play around with these thugs right here. The leader of the group loses his patience and immediately orders his 2 subordinates to hold Noah down by force. The thugs promptly agree and start marching toward the boy to carry out the order. Noah surprises everyone by acting fast, landing a powerful kick to the chest of the first thug who tries to get close. The hitman groans in pain and spits blood from the absurd impact of the blow. The other thug charges furiously, slashing with his sword, but the Proto easily dodges the strike, showing incredible agility. Noah takes advantage of the opponent's opening and lands a clean punch right in the middle of his face, knocking him down instantly. Both men fall to their knees, groaning in pain, while Noah thinks to himself that his current body is much weaker than he imagined. Noah wonders why they tried to poison him, but decides he will investigate that after dealing with these guys. The leader of the intruders orders the thugs to finish this quickly, and they draw their swords, ready to fight for real. Suddenly, Noah notices something extremely unusual happening right before his eyes, and is taken aback. As his opponents charge, 2 floating screens appear, showing their stats and basic skills. Reading the detailed information about the enemy named Greg, Noah realizes he has activated the appraisal skill. The Proto is intrigued, knowing that this is an extremely rare skill, and doesn't understand how he got it. He concludes that his opponents are just beginners with basic 1-star swordsman techniques and dodges the attack. The thugs attack together, unleashing heavy strikes, but Noah moves gracefully, escaping every slash effortlessly. With extreme calmness and agility, the young man focuses his attention on the first opponent, preparing an immediate counterattack. Noah delivers a spectacular spinning kick that hits the thug's face with full force, sending him straight to the ground. Before the fallen thug's sword can hit the floor, Noah catches it in midair and takes his combat stance. The second opponent attacks furiously, but Noah blocks the blow with his newly acquired sword without taking a single step back. With a quick and precise movement, he disarms the attacker and cleanly cuts through the opponent's line of attack. The thug is thrown backward and falls defeated to the ground, right near where the terrified maids are watching everything. The long-haired man watches it all and comments in surprise that, even while sick, a member of the Daskell family is still dangerous. Noah points the weapon at him and challenges him to stop watching from afar and come face him in person once and for all. However, before the fight can resume, Noah feels a bizarre and painful tingling sensation throughout his entire body. He realizes a mysterious energy is awakening and recognizes that unusual feeling as a mana core. That dark energy is the mana core, the exclusive source of power that only members of the Daskell family possess. On the other hand, he remembers that the warriors of his old family possessed an opposing source called the Holy Core. Under normal conditions, holy power and mana should never coexist inside the body of a single person. The enemy leader notices the boy stumbling and says that, since he is going to end up finished today anyway, he will share a little secret. He reveals that Noah's body is being destroyed by the rampaging mana energy that collapsed during his fight. Noah knows that the excess power will kill him and decides he needs to make a risky gamble to see if his body can take the strain. He decides to try something he has never done before in his life, concentrating the bright golden energy of his own inner core. The warrior decides to use his holy core's energy to contain and suppress the rampaging mana, trying to tear his body apart. Watching the boy struggle, the man mocks him, saying his effort is useless, and prepares an attack with the Yuan style, first form. The enemy leader uses the void dodge skill, making a dark red mist appear as he vanishes into thin air. Noah's eyes widen, and he goes on high alert as he realizes his opponent has completely vanished from his sight. In the blink of an eye, the opponent reappears, launching a surprise attack, but Noah reacts quickly and blocks the strike with his sword. Surprised by the quick reaction, the man mocks Noah and asks if he is actually capable of using techniques with his mana core. He praises Noah's swordsmanship but quickly loses his temper as he sees the boy fighting back on equal footing, revealing himself to be a 3-star opponent. The young man leaps and executes a beautiful spinning slash in midair, releasing golden and purple sparks to try and hit the enemy. The opponent dodges with agility and counterattacks, unleashing a massive wave of dark red energy toward Noah. Both strikes collide with extreme violence, creating a massive flash of light that illuminates the entire room in the middle of the clash. Noah steps back gracefully while his opponent also backs away, both staring each other down with swords drawn. The Prota realizes that the void dodge consumes a lot of mana core energy and concludes that a drawn-out fight would be terrible for him. The enemy notices the young man's fatigue and mocks his arrogance, saying he already seems completely out of breath. Noah simply smirks and fires back, saying his opponent is so desperate he can't even pretend to be polite anymore. Infuriated by the boy's audacity, the man charges again, unleashing quick, dark slashes with his sword. The enemy screams in rage, promising that the young master will never be able to predict where his next surprise attack will come from. He uses the void dodge again, spreading a thick red smoke that surrounds Noah from all sides in a threatening way. The dark mist spreads throughout the room, while the maids watch everything huddled in a corner. Absolutely terrified of the villain, Noah remains calm in the center of the mist, closing his eyes and focusing his energy to track the presence of his invisible enemy. The young man turns in a perfect motion and strikes the air with his sword just as his opponent tries to attack him from behind. The clash of the swords causes a violent explosion of energy that echoes through the room with extreme force. The enemy is thrown against the wall and spits up blood, completely shocked and unable to understand how Noah predicted his secret attack. Noah calmly explains that although he can hide his body using mana, his physical presence is still active in the area fallen and seriously injured. The man can barely stutter out where that terrifying and unusual power is coming from. Noah says that even he doesn't fully understand this strength, so he couldn't give a detailed explanation even if he wanted to. Internally, the young man realizes that, at that exact moment, the power of his old holy core has merged with his mana core. He understands that his soul kept his original holy core, which has now fused with the mana core belonging to Noah's body. He thinks with determination that if he can perfectly master this new hybrid strength, he will be able to change the fate of the world. The young man gives a slight smile and mentally thanks Aerith, because thanks to her sacrifice, he can finally see a glimmer of hope. The two maids run worriedly toward Noah, asking if he is hurt and saying they will call a doctor right away. He calms the girls down, saying he is fine, and points toward the window, asking what that creature flying over is. A small, friendly black dragon lands on the windowsill, holding a letter sealed with red wax in its mouth. Lydia takes the message and explains to Noah that it is an official summons from the current head of the family, Lord Victor. She hands him the envelope and explains that the head wants to know if Noah plans to participate in the Daskul family succession battle. Noah stares at the paper in silence and thinks that he needs to find out what this battle is to plan the next steps of his future. He asks if the maids know anything about this dispute, and both immediately answer, yes. Selena takes a serious stance and assures him that any servant working for the Daskul family knows this tradition very well. She explains that the succession battle serves to strengthen the family and basically consists of siblings stealing each other's mana cores. She explains that the siblings face each other in deadly combat, so the strongest can take the power of the weak and inherit the family leadership. Noah finally understands that the lack of historical records about the Daskuls in the future was simply because they slaughtered each other in this dispute. Lydia stares at the young master and asks if he will really have the courage to participate in this violent succession battle. Noah gives a slight, mysterious smile and confidently replies that she will find out the answer to that very soon. The Proto recalls that his old family of holy knights was deeply loved by the people, with his holy core being a radiant symbol of justice. On the other hand, the terrible Daskul family stands on the complete opposite end, viewed with disgust and dread for mastering a demonic swordsmanship. Despite being shrouded in mystery, everyone knows that their current leader, Victor Daskul, is considered the strongest swordsman in all of humanity. Noah arrives before the massive, imposing doors of the main hall, a place that was previously completely hidden in the shadows. With great determination in his eyes, the young man decides he will find out the whole truth behind that feared family with his own eyes. Noah enters the grand hall in an imposing manner, bowing slightly with elegance as his name is announced to the room. The herald announces to everyone that Noah Daskul has finally arrived as summoned, drawing the attention of the other family members present. Noah walks with firm steps along the red carpet and looks at the other family members gathered there, recognizing his blood siblings. He quickly identifies Damien Daskul, the eldest son, who wears imposing dark armor. Next, he sees Julia Daskul, the eldest daughter, with her long platinum hair. I think I just fell in love with this one. Please marry me already. Right beside her is Cease Daskul, the second son of the family, and also Eve Daskul, the second daughter. But Noah's attention turns completely to one brother in particular, sparking an immediate wave of contempt inside him. The young man glares at the third son, Skull Daskul, remembering that this red-haired jerk was the one who secretly ordered his poisoning. This absolute NPC is acting way too smug. I hope our Proto beats him up. Julia comments that it is indeed true that Noah recovered from his illness, and he confirms he finally figured out the cause of the problem. She asks if he plans to spend some time resting, but Noah firmly states that he intends to dedicate himself entirely to swordsmanship training. Skull interrupts and mocks Noah, asking if a sick piece of trash like him really plans to train and calling it a waste of time. Annoyed, Noah tells his brother to shut his mouth and calls him a coward for not having the guts to face him in person, one-on-one. Skull is furious at Noah's insolent reply and growls angrily at his younger brother, ready to snap back. Their sisters tell them both to shut up and warn that enough is enough with the petty arguments, as the official ceremony is about to begin. The guard announces in a loud voice that the feared patriarch, Lord Victor, is entering the grand hall, putting everyone into immediate silence. Heavy, firm footsteps echo through the room as the ultimate leader of the powerful family approaches his throne. All the siblings close their eyes and bow their heads in a gesture of extreme respect and submission before their father Noah is stunned as he feels a crushing pressure and a terrifying combat presence coming from that man. He remembers that in his past life, every swordsman knew the fame and devastating power of that relentless warrior. That is Victor Daskul, the legendary 9-star magic swordsman and considered the most powerful man on the entire continent. Sitting on his dark throne, Victor notes that all his heirs are present, and the children respectfully reply. The imposing leader then orders the important council meeting to formally begin right there. Noah walks to the center of the massive hall, standing alone right before his feared father's throne. Victor calls him by name and says he summoned him here to confirm what his true intentions are from now on. The leader asks Noah what he intends to achieve in the family now that he has finally managed to overcome his severe illness. Noah flashes an extremely confident smile and fearlessly replies that he intends to win the succession dispute and stand at the top of the family. Victor stares at him with a sharp gaze and asks if he realizes that this is an obvious declaration of war against every candidate there. Noah clenches his fist tightly and boldly corrects his father, saying that is not exactly what he meant. The young man states in an impactful manner that this is, in fact, a declaration of war against absolutely everyone in this hall. The older siblings look at him, shocked by such arrogance coming from someone they considered a failure. Noah thinks to himself that the opponents he needs to defeat to reach his ultimate goal are not just his siblings. He looks the patriarch in the eyes with limitless boldness and points his finger directly at him. Noah says with a provocative smile on his face that his own father is one of the opponents he will make sure to take down. Lord Victor releases a colossal and terrifying wave of dark energy that shakes the entire hall, furious at his son's immense audacity. Faced with his father's crushing power, Noah realizes how terrifying and gigantic the energy coming from that mana core truly is. Victor stares at his heir intently, mentally questioning if the insolent young man actually plans to surpass his own father's strength. Even under pressure from the dark aura, Noah stares back with a defying smile and confirms without hesitation that he does Victor, then questions what the real reason is for the boy to seek such a massive amount of power. Noah coldly answers that he wants this power to ensure that no one in the world is ever able to take anything away from him again. Faced with that firm and ambitious answer, the family patriarch cannot hold back a wide smile of satisfaction. Victor praises the answer and says, Noah has finally shown an ambition worthy of a true Dazkul heir. The leader announces to everyone that, starting today, Noah will participate in the succession and challenges anyone who disagrees to step forward. The siblings react in different ways to the news, with Skull becoming completely furious and grinding his teeth in pure rage. Victor bellows for Noah to keep striving for more and more strength to prove his worth within that feared family. The next day, under a clear sky at the family mansion, Noah takes advantage of his free time to start his rigorous daily training. The young man delivers quick strikes with his wooden sword, attacking a straw training dummy with focus and precision. With a precise slash, Noah knocks the dummy to the ground and analyzes the results of his efforts while being watched from afar. He feels his physical stamina has improved a lot, but recognizes he is still at a very basic level to face real fights. He realizes the fusion between his holy core and his mana core prevents him from fighting the same way he was used to in the past. Noah cannot use his old holy techniques or the Dazkul magic arts. Questioning what this power actually is, he sees on his status screen that his strength is limited to 2 stars and decides to hide the existence of his holy core from everyone. Julia suddenly appears, praising his movements, leaving Noah surprised to see her there and asking what she wants. If you liked this waifu too, leave a like and comment below. She explains that until now, their father only cared about Damien, but now Noah has also managed to catch the patriarch's attention. Julia confesses she wanted to see her brother's progress up close, and Noah understands her curiosity regarding his improvement. Without wasting time, the young woman draws her own wooden training sword and warns that she is going to test the boy without further ado. She charges in a sudden attack, yelling for them to begin, leaving her brother startled by that offensive without any warning. Julia delivers a lightning-fast slash that grazes Noah, forcing the young man to quickly dodge with a leap backward. She asks with a sharp look if he really thought she had only come all this way for a friendly chat. Noah recovers from the shock and prepares for combat. Surprised by the speed and seriousness of his sister's movements, Julia delivers a powerful downward strike that Noah is forced to block firmly, using all his strength to resist. Noah finds the challenge perfect and gets excited to discover just how strong his older sister really is in a real fight. The girl starts a devastating sequence of rapid thrusts with her sword. Testing Noah's defensive reflexes to the absolute limit, she dodges with ease and lands a clean kick right on her brother's guard, pushing him back with a lot of aggression. Julia stops and comments that although he has some talent, his efforts are still far from enough to beat her. She questions if that insignificant strength is all that the heir recognized by their father has to offer to the family through his system. Noah reads her stats and is stunned to see that his sister has already reached the incredible level of 7 stars. Julia laments his weakness, calling it a disappointment, and charges forward again, unleashing another rapid attack. The young man is amazed by her agility. Barely having time to raise his wooden sword in time to protect himself from the impact, Noah blocks the direct hit at the last second, generating golden and purple sparks from the violent clash of the training weapons pressed against the wall. The warrior realizes he will have no choice but to release the power of his hybrid core. Noah counterattacks using his mysterious energy, managing to repel Julia's heavy onslaught and balance the fight. Julia comments that this must be the famous power of his failed mana core, leaving Noah intrigued by the term she used. She explains that she heard rumors that his mana core was always extremely weak and defective since birth. Noah finally understands that the previous owner of the body was already born with the fused cores, and that to outsiders, it just looked like a failure. Noah concludes that as long as she doesn't notice the mix of mana and holy energy in his strikes, it will be completely safe to fight seriously. The young man challenges her, saying he will prove whether he is a failure or not, while Julia smiles excitedly, predicting the fight will be fun. Concentrating his hybrid glow, Noah charges quickly, delivering a powerful strike toward his older sister. Julia dodges the attack with extreme grace and, very calmly, addresses her younger brother during the fight. She asks if he knows that the real purpose of the succession is to steal cores to create a supreme warrior, and he says he knows it well. Julia drops her wooden sword to the ground, commenting with satisfaction that his direct answer makes everything much simpler. The young woman is enveloped by a terrifying red aura and menacingly demands that Noah hand over his mana core to her. Noah is extremely surprised and on high alert as he realizes his own sister's true murderous intentions. He yells for Selena to throw his real sword, and the loyal maid promptly replies that she will obey her master's order. Selena throws the real metal sword through the air with precision, while the other maid watches the moment in great distress. Noah catches the weapon and leaps with everything to defend himself against the terrifying surge of reddish energy coming his way. He is forced to block Julia's heavy sword strike, letting out a groan from the devastating impact that shakes the area. Noah grinds his teeth, making the maximum effort possible to contain the immense physical pressure his sister exerts on him. Julia takes advantage of his busy guard and lands a powerful sidekick, pushing the young man back with great violence. The young man quickly recovers from the impact and looks at his opponent seriously, with purple and golden lightning sparking around him. He tries to attack her, but Julia dodges, laughing cynically, and praises her brother. Commenting that he is much better than she thought, Julia asks him to show even more of his skills, while flashing a smile of pure excitement with the battle. The girl positions herself again with her dark aura, and mockingly asks if he will be able to survive the next hit. She activates the Shadow Flame style. First form, Shadow Flame Sword Dance. Coating her blade in black and red fire, Noah recognizes the immense danger of that devastating technique and realizes he needs to block the attack with absolutely everything he has. Julia executes a gigantic slash of red fire, while Noah desperately tries to raise a magic barrier to protect himself. The direct impact is monstrous, forcing the young man to resist with great difficulty against his sister's terrible destructive force. The collision creates a brutal wind that almost knocks over the maids, who watch the scene terrified by such a demonstration of power. Julia forces her blade against his, and ironically asks if her brother really intends to keep fighting using only one hand. Noah responds boldly, challenging his sister to use all her strength to force him to use both hands in the fight. Julia accepts the challenge and drastically increases the pressure of her shadow flames against the young man's armed defense. Pressed by the brutal energy, Noah is forced to grip his sword's hilt with both hands before being completely overwhelmed. He makes a tremendous effort to hold off his sister's devastating strike. Feeling the extreme temperature of the shadow fire surrounding him, Julia gives a satisfied smile noticing his struggle, victoriously commenting that he was finally forced to use both hands. The final impact throws Noah far away, making him spin violently in the air before he manages to stabilize himself and try to land. He digs his sword into the stone floor to slow his momentum, breaking the tiles as he slides backward from the impact. Julia remains standing, watching her brother from afar with an extremely cold gaze, evaluating the young man's physical state. Sweating coldly, Noah thinks that even after releasing all the strength of his hybrid core of mana and holy light, he barely managed to hold on. The young man looks at his weapon and realizes that last defensive effort was the absolute limit of his current core's power. Noah leans on the sword, dug into the stone floor. Out of breath and trying to recover his strength after the brutal exchange of blows, Julia asks if he knows why the members of the Daskul family don't kill each other immediately in the succession, and he questions why. She explains that the stronger a mana core is, the slower it grows, and that is why they avoid hunting down siblings who are still weak. Julia says there is no advantage in stealing someone's power before the victim's mana core is mature and strong. She praises the fact that he blocked and counterattacked her strike, while her red aura begins to burn intensely again. Julia says with eyes red with fury that if Noah's core is already this strong, it is worth stealing it right now. Noah is having a lot of trouble and can barely withstand the pressure of the fight. Julia charges with everything from above, using the 8th form of her shadow flame style. Suddenly, a voice shouts that enough is enough, and someone steps into the middle of the fight to break it up. The man who intervened manages to block Julia's powerful attack with his own sword. He yells at her and warns that if they keep going with this, young Noah is going to end up finished. Julia tells Kyle to stay out of the core dispute, but he fires back, saying Noah's is only level 2. She finds that impossible since the boy just managed to block her previous strike. Kyle explains that he investigated this on Victor's orders and that Noah's core is completely depleted. He adds that if the level were higher, Noah wouldn't have reached his limit so quickly. While they talk, Noah remains standing there. Breathing with great difficulty, Julia decides to sheath her weapon upon realizing she actually made a mistake about his strength. Even so, she warns Noah to remember that her desire for his mana core is very real. She says they will fight for real and finish what they started when he gets stronger. Noah just gives a confident smile and replies that he will be looking forward to it. As she walks away, Julia starts to feel like there is something very strange about his power. She knows very well that her attack couldn't have been blocked by someone of level 2. With that, Julia is absolutely sure the boy is hiding his true potential. She gives a slight smile and hopes he keeps growing in a very interesting way. Elsewhere, screams of pure rage begin to echo throughout the Grand Palace. A long-haired man smashes a glass on the floor while swearing furiously on the sofa. A red-haired young man asks how their father could take a liking to a piece of trash like Noah. He screams in anger, outraged that he has never received that kind of recognition before. He goes on saying he won't accept this, but soon a servant appears bringing an important report. The messenger approaches to share the news while everyone in the room pays close attention. The red-haired youth gives a wicked smile and says he just had a very interesting idea. He thinks to himself that he is going to drag Noah out of this succession dispute once and for all. Back in the courtyard, the warrior apologizes to Noah for not introducing himself sooner. He introduces himself as Kyle, the boy's new instructor, which leaves Noah quite surprised. Kyle explains that Victor sent him because it would be boring if Noah dropped out of the dispute so early to better understand who he is dealing with. Noah decides to use his appraisal skill. He finds out that Kyle's skills are excellent and more than enough for training. The boy asks if they are going to train now, but Kyle says there is something else to be done. He hands him a sealed letter and warns that Lord Victor sent a direct order for him. Noah opens the paper and sees that their mission is to investigate and clear out a mana source. The report explains that the source is a dangerous area where monsters are appearing out of control. To temporarily resolve the situation, it is necessary to defeat the terrible boss monster of the region. Noah flashes a slight smile on his face as he finishes reading all the details of that mission. He decides he will use this whole dangerous situation to his own advantage to gain some benefits. Already in the forest, one of the warriors attacks and quickly eliminates a giant spider with his sword. Kyle leads the group and orders his men to keep clearing out every monster in that place. The soldiers start to gossip, saying Noah must be scared since he is only level 2. Kyle thinks it would be more efficient to run than to hunt weak monsters and wonders what Victor saw in Noah. Suddenly, one of the men calls out for Noah and Kyle from the middle of the forest. Upon arriving at the spot, they find a few unconscious children on the ground. Kyle comments that they seem knocked out and asks what Noah's orders are. Noah says the priority is the mana source and that they must take the children along due to the lack of time. With that, the soldiers put the children on their backs and keep advancing through the forest. Noah notices the energy is rising and that the boss monster must be close. At that moment, a massive scorpion appears in front of them, leaving Kyle quite worried. The creature roars loudly and Kyle immediately orders them to take the children far away from there. He warns that the energy of the place raised the monster to rank A and that they need a plan against its shell. Without giving any time for talk, the creature prepares a quick attack with its giant stinger. Noah yells, warning everyone that the enemy's attack is coming their way. The impact of the scorpion's strike is devastating, making the soldiers leap to dodge it. One of the warriors is impressed by the monster's speed and overwhelming strength. Noah charges alone against the enemy, but the soldiers scream in despair that he is going to end up finished. Ignoring the warnings, the boy channels his magic energy into his sword and heads into the clash. He leaps straight toward the giant scorpion's massive claws. Noah manages to clash his sword against the creature's attack, creating a large explosion of light. Kyle is shocked to see the block, but warns that the scorpion's real danger is its poison. The monster then begins to shoot several blasts of green, corrosive poison through the air. With extreme agility, Noah manages to dodge every single acidic jet coming his way. The scorpion attacks again with its poison-coated stinger, trying to hit him. Noah positions himself in the air and prepares a devastating counterattack aiming at the enemy's tail. He concentrates a large amount of glowing energy into his weapon with total focus. With a quick and precise strike, the boy unleashes a slash of light that severs the creature's tail. The soldiers are amazed and comment that, despite his weak core, his swordsmanship is incredible. However, to everyone's shock, the scorpion's stinger regenerates instantly. The furious monster unleashes several rapid attacks toward Noah while he is still in the air. Noah reacts quickly and uses his sword to block the enemy's frantic sequence of strikes. He holds the hilt of his sword tightly while resisting the pressure of the creature's attacks. Next, the boy prepares to deliver another powerful attack, coming down with everything he hits the monster's shell, but the strike only creates sparks without causing any real damage. The blade of the sword screeches as it collides heavily against the enemy's impenetrable defense. Noah realizes the scorpion's armor is way too hard and starts to get tense with the situation. Kyle watches everything impressed, unable to understand how the boy commands such great techniques without any instruction. At that moment, Noah yells, asking for Kyle's help, and he immediately replies, accepting the call. The boy asks him to create an opening for just 1 second, and Kyle says to leave it to him. The scorpion's stinger charges with full force toward Kyle to try and crush him. With a shout of determination, Kyle prepares to hold off the blow and play his part. Kyle charges with determination and manages to block the stinger's direct blow with his sword. Noah praises Kyle's defense and takes the perfect opportunity to leap onto the monster. The boy uses the enemy's own giant claws as leverage to jump even higher. Noah uses the monster fangs he gathered earlier to strike the scorpion's head with full force. The magical fangs manage to crack the impenetrable shell and create a fracture in the creature. The monster writhes in pain, while Noah positions himself right above the hit spot. The boy attacks again, with full force, right on the cracked part of the creature's armor. The attack is so powerful that it crushes the scorpion against the ground in a single blow. Kyle asks if the weapons Noah used were the fangs of the monsters they killed. On the way, Noah confirms and explains that the poison from those spiders serves to soften the enemy's shell. Kyle is impressed upon understanding the real reason Noah collected those fangs. But the conversation is cut short when the monster's regenerated stinger suddenly attacks them. Several green magic circles begin to appear glowing in the sky above all of them. Kyle prepares to activate his defense technique while the enemy unleashes another rapid attack. He activates a purple demonic barrier just in time to block the giant monster's stinger. The tip of the creature's stinger collides against the shield and ends up stuck and cracked. Noah smirks, realizing the perfect moment to attack has finally arrived. He leaps incredibly high, concentrating a massive amount of energy around his body. With swift movements, the boy dodges the monster's onslaught and positions himself to strike. He comes down delivering a direct blow to the scorpion's body, which reels from the impact. Noah remembers Julia's strike and decides to see if he can replicate that same technique. He concentrates all his magic energy into the sword, making it glow with extreme intensity. Noah begins setting up a fighting style focused on an extremely fast technique. He shouts the name of the light and shadow sword dance technique as he attacks with everything. With several consecutive magical slashes, he begins to slice up the giant scorpion's body. Noah finishes the attack by cutting the creature in half with a devastating vertical slash. The scorpion explodes completely, spreading green blood all over the surrounding vegetation. The soldiers are shocked to see Noah's real power and wonder where that came from. Noah feels that he tried to copy Julia's technique using his hybrid core, but he still needs to improve. Kyle praises the incredible work, and Noah says he will leave the rest of the clearing to him from then on. The instructor asks where he is going, and Noah simply answers that he is going to take care of some business. The boy walks off alone toward the densest and most mysterious part of the forest. He reflects that the people of this era still don't know what causes these mana sources. Noah knows they form because of powerful magic tools that drain energy. He arrives before a colossal tree that emits a magical blue glow coming from its roots. Noah uses his sword to clear the way, cutting through a part of the tree's glowing bark. Inside the wood, he finds a mysterious ring glowing with a strong purple aura. He takes the ring in his hands and is pleased to have finally found what he wanted. Suddenly, a monstrous and deafening roar begins to echo throughout the entire region. Noah is startled by the sudden noise and wonders what is going on there. Noah looks down at the ground and is shocked to see the children glowing with a strange blue energy. A soldier runs desperately to Noah and warns that they have a huge problem with the monsters. The boy quickly turns around, wielding his sword, and prepares for the worst. A massive horde of dangerous creatures appears from all sides and surrounds the group in the forest. One of the monsters attacks Noah by surprise from behind with sharp claws. Kyle runs quickly toward him and shouts the boy's name to alert him. The warrior manages to block the fatal strike, and Noah thanks him, saying he saved his life. Noah then asks Kyle to keep fighting and buying time for him to act. The boy focuses his attention on the glowing necklace around one of the children's necks. He realizes that tool drains the target's mana and remembers that this made his family hated. Kyle screams, warning that they won't be able to hold out much longer against so many monsters. Noah decides to use his holy core to interfere with the item and track down whoever is controlling everything. He channels all his magic energy through the mysterious ring he found in the tree. The boy closes his eyes and concentrates deeply to trace the origin of that connection. In the middle of the forest, a masked assassin feels the shock of the interference and is startled. Noah opens his eyes with a serious look and quietly celebrates having found the culprit. He shouts, warning the group that he will be right back, and asks them to take good care of the unconscious children. Noah runs at high speed, cutting down all the monsters that try to get in his way, enveloped in his magic aura. The boy charges quickly through the forest trees. He slides along the ground with great agility to reach his destination as fast as possible. Stopping in a clearing, Noah shouts that he knows the enemy is there and tells him to show himself. The masked assassin leaps down from a tree and tries to strike the boy by surprise with his sword. With impressive reflexes, Noah raises his weapon and blocks the enemy's aerial attack. The man backs away a bit and is surprised to see his stealth attack was easily repelled. He praises Noah for noticing his presence and comments that he really is part of the Daskul family. Noah demands to know who sent the thug, but the man ironically asks if he would actually tell him. The boy smirks and confidently replies that he will make him want to talk either way. The two charge at each other and begin to exchange fast sword strikes in a fierce clash. The assassin feels Noah's massive power and wonders if it comes from a mana core. Noah smiles in the middle of the confrontation and replies, saying even he doesn't know for sure. Yet, the enemy decides to use the second form of his fighting style, coating his weapon in a red aura. He channels all that dark energy and fires his special flying blades technique. Several red blades cut through the air, heading toward Noah to slice him up for good. Noah remains calm and masterfully dodges every single approaching magical projectile with precise movements of his sword. He nullifies the assassin's remaining strikes effortlessly. The man groans in pain, and Noah takes the opportunity to use his appraisal skill on the opponent. The system screen reveals his name is Darius, and Noah wonders what happened to the power from before. Noah notices his swordsmanship is amateurish and thinks he just needs to close the distance to win for good. The assassin tries to fire more red blasts as he sees the boy closing the gap. Without hesitating, Noah charges, cutting through the magic attacks and heads straight to finish the fight. Noah leaps incredibly high to dodge the red slashes the assassin tries to throw at him. In the air, the boy raises his sword, which glows intensely with discharges of purple magic. He delivers a downward strike, but his opponent manages to block it with his weapon. The assassin gives a mocking smile behind his mask and says his attack was too predictable. However, the enemy suddenly releases a very powerful red blast against the boy. The waves of red energy begin to circle around Noah like whips. Calmly, Noah murmurs that he will use a special technique from the Maasai style to counter that. The boy focuses his attention and begins to channel all his magic aura of light and shadow into the sword. He activates the light and shadow transition technique, charging right through that red strike. The assassin is extremely shocked to recognize that legendary technique being used by him. Terrified, the man tries to defend himself, hastily raising his sword in the middle of the clash, but Noah instantly appears by his side, says he is too slow and slashes him hard. The assassin lets out a groan of pain as he takes the deep cut to his chest and begins to spit up blood. Fallen on the ground, the enemy asks with great difficulty how the boy knows that technique. Noah explains that his holy core has the power to mix common energy with holy energy. He adds that if he understands the principles, he can replicate the techniques of great clans. He knows that once he fully masters this power, his true potential will be revealed. Noah then points his sword at the wounded opponent and orders him to say who sent him there. The assassin becomes furious and says the boy is sorely mistaken if he thinks the fight is over there. Without wasting time, the man grabs a mysterious flask and drinks all the blue liquid quickly. Noah watches the scene intrigued and wonders what that strange potion he drank is. The enemy tosses the empty flask aside while his body begins to undergo a terrible mutation. The man roars loudly and transforms into a terrifying, muscular, giant green creature. Noah backs away, startled. Realizing the enemy has just used the monsterization process, the green creature with glowing red eyes charges furiously toward Noah to kill him. Noah takes a defensive stance with his sword and prepares for the impact of the impending blow. The monster delivers a violent punch against the boy's sword, generating a shockwave in the area. Noah is pushed back and realizes his sword won't hold up against the creature's physical power. The monster laughs loudly at the boy and mockingly asks how much longer he thinks he will last. The green giant attacks again with full force to try and crush the boy once and for all. With swift agility, Noah manages to duck at the exact moment and dodges its claws. The monster leaps to crush him, but the boy manages to move in time and avoids the violent punch. Noah leaps incredibly high to escape the destructive attack that makes the entire forest floor shake. In the air, the boy executes a perfect acrobatics move and lands very firmly and gracefully on the grass. Noah knows he can't just keep running from the blows and needs to find an opening to attack. The monster leaps straight toward him and screams, asking if the boy is desperate because of its strength. The giant comes down at high speed, promising to end the fight at that exact moment. Noah remains completely calm and extends his left hand to activate a new defense. The silver magic ring on his finger begins to emit a pink glow of intense energy. He activates a honeycomb-shaped magic barrier and manages to stop the monster's claws in mid-air. The giant monster is thrown back by the force of the impact generated by Noah's shield. Noah smiles upon realizing that with his holy core, he can replicate his past techniques. The boy begins to focus a massive amount of electricity and purple magic around the blade. He leaps toward the falling monster and prepares to deliver the final attack. Noah raises his sword and decides to use his special holy magic combat style. He channels all his energy into a single, gigantic vertical beam of golden light. Noah activates the bipolar blade and hits the creature dead on with an extremely destructive strike. The light attack is so strong that it completely disintegrates the monster's body instantly. Noah lands safely on the ground and sighs in relief, having managed to win that clash. He looks at his finger and thanks the dampening ring for nullifying the enemy's attack. Next, the boy decides it is time to go back and help Kyle and the other soldiers in the forest. Meanwhile, in the clearing, Kyle and the men continue to fight the endless horde of monsters. Kyle blocks the enemy attacks with great difficulty and realizes he has already reached his physical limit. Suddenly, just as a monster was about to attack him from behind, the attack is cut short unexpectedly. The warrior notices the creatures started collapsing on their own and wonders what happened there. Noah appears in the middle of the clearing, walking calmly, and asks if everyone is all right after the fight. Kyle breathes a sigh of relief and confirms they managed to hold off the monster's pressure just in time. Noah warns that he eliminated the one responsible for the monster's frenzy, and Kyle asks if he found the caster. The boy says yes, but confesses he didn't find out who hired the assassin to do it. He brings his hand close to the children and breaks the magic of the necklaces that were draining their energy. Sometime later, Noah arrives back at the massive and luxurious Daskul family mansion. He thinks with anger that children almost ended up finished because of him and decides to hunt down the culprit behind this. He remembers the maid Lydia mentioned that the information broker Eve might know something useful. Focused on delivering justice, Noah decides his first step must be to find some clue with her. But as he walks through the courtyard, a familiar warrior steps in front of him and orders him to stop right there. It is his brother Cease, who coldly warns that he won't let him pass through there under any circumstances. Noah recalls that Eve Daskul is responsible for handling all the important information of the clan. He remembers Lydia's advice that she was the only person capable of identifying the mastermind behind the attack. Returning to the present, the boy activates his magic aura and tells his brother Cease to get out of the way. Cease says he is Eve's bodyguard and won't let anyone with so much bloodlust pass, but Noah insists. The brother yells angrily, saying he won't believe an outright lie like that. Under any circumstances, Noah realizes he won't be able to settle things through talking and prepares for the worst. He draws his weapon and warns seriously that he will have to break his way through by force. Cease accepts the challenge with disdain and tells the boy to try whatever he wants to get past him. The brother charges quickly, wielding his sword to strike Noah directly in the mansion's courtyard. The two clash their swords with great force, creating an explosion of bright sparks between them. Noah manages to contain the impact of Cease's strike, using his own weapon as a shield. With a quick dodging motion, he pushes his brother's sword aside and forces him to step back. Cease leaps backward to create distance while Noah remains calm in his combat stance. The brother then slams his sword into the ground and activates his stone spear technique against the boy. Suddenly, several sharp stone spikes erupt from the ground, and Noah leaps back, startled by the surprise attack. Noah quickly prepares himself and concentrates his purple magic energy around his body to face the threat. He swings his sword with force and manages to destroy the stone spikes coming his way. However, Cease uses another skill called Stone Blade, crushing fangs while creating magic circles. Noah is confused to see that his brother now wields a sword made entirely of solid stone. Without giving the boy time to think, Cease charges quickly to deliver another powerful strike. Noah reacts in time and blocks the blow with his glowing blade, staring at his opponent up close. The two begin to exchange fast strikes in the courtyard, making bright sparks fly in every direction. Cease presses on with his continuous attacks, and Noah remains on the defensive, trying to find an opening. The boy realizes his brother's movements are hard to predict, and decides to use his appraisal skill. The status screen reveals Cease has great physical and swordsmanship attributes, but his magic is lower tier. Noah notices his mana core is weak and deduces he mixes swordsmanship with magic to cover that weakness. Thinking about this, the boy decides to test his brother's raw strength using the Masse-style technique. He then channels all his energy and prepares the light and shadow sword dance. A massive wave of purple and golden power is fired by Noah toward his opponent. Cease is astonished to feel the massive pressure of the mana core his brother possesses, but he quickly recovers and activates the second form of the Arai style to strike back. The brother channels red lightning around his blade and uses the dark thunder momentum technique. Noah immediately recognizes the Arai style and goes on maximum alert regarding the danger. He remembers when Kyle warned him about the Daskul family combat styles he would face. Kyle had explained that this technique focuses on speed, and that Cease's strike would be almost impossible to dodge. Cease smiles confidently and says theory is nothing compared to the practice of a real fight. Noah doesn't back down, accepts the challenge, and yells for his brother to come at him with everything. The opponent charges with his blade wrapped in red lightning and focuses his gaze on the boy. He then releases a sequence of extremely destructive red energy slashes across the courtyard. Noah positions himself firmly to try and hold off the massive storm of attacks heading his way. The boy yells as he struggles his absolute hardest to resist his brother's devastating strike. The clash of energies creates a massive explosion of red and purple light that shakes the entire area. A massive sphere of yellow light expands in the courtyard and destroys the ground around the two combatants. When the dust settles, Noah reappears out of breath, holding his guard up with difficulty. Feeling the pain of the impact, the boy lets out a groan while Cease stares at him from a bit further away. He realizes that not even the light and shadow sword dance was able to block the attack completely. Noah reflects that copied techniques have a limit and his imitations always fall short at some point. He concludes he needs to create his own techniques using the hybrid core, but doesn't know where to start. Suddenly, a firm voice orders them both to stop that fighting immediately. It is Eve, who appears at the mansion door, looking at the two brothers with a serious and tired expression. The scene changes to the inside of a luxurious meeting room with comfortable sofas and a fireplace. Everyone sits down, and Eve calmly asks what the real reason was for that fight starting. Cease explains he felt a strong bloodlust coming from Noah and couldn't ignore it as her bodyguard Noah is confused and asks why a member of the Daskul family would be acting as a simple guard. Eve calmly explains that she isn't exactly the type of person who likes to fight. Cease asks what Noah wants there and warns that Eve is not part of the succession battle. Eve ignores the tension and directly asks Noah if he wants to know who hired the assassins. The boy is surprised and asks how she managed to find out that information so quickly. She gives a slight smile and replies that there are very few things in this world she doesn't know. The girl says she would love to tell her cute little brother everything, but sets a small obstacle. Noah realizes she has a condition and asks directly what she wants him to do. Eve acts mysterious and asks the young man if he has ever heard of a place called the Infinite Library. It is a gigantic, unexplored labyrinth that holds ancient secrets humanity has yet to discover. Around it lies a dangerous city full of monsters, and Eve orders Noah to go there and retrieve the Book of UN. She repeats clearly that she specifically wants him to bring that Book of UN to her. Noah recognizes the name and remembers that, in his past life, this work revolutionized the entire theory of magic. He recalls that the theories in that book saved countless lives during the war against the invaders. But in the end, the world wasn't saved, and the boy thinks things would be different if he obtained it earlier. Determined to get the clues, Noah accepts the mission and promises he will bring the Book of Ewan to her. The two seal the deal with a friendly handshake, ending the conflict in the courtyard for good. Shortly after, a carriage departs, and Noah travels accompanied by his maids to the agreed destination. The group finally arrives at the massive city of Arcanum, where the feared Labyrinth Tower is located. Noah walks through the city, knowing the labyrinth is complex and that he will need a local guide to avoid getting lost. He enters a busy establishment in the city to start looking for a clue or a guide. The boy then decides to walk down an isolated alley while a few people watch him suspiciously. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Eve relaxes comfortably on her sofa while sipping a cup of tea. The butler opens the meeting room door and announces the arrival of a visitor, asking him to enter. A young man with pink hair and elegant clothes enters the room with a calm and calculating look. He tells the girl bluntly that he came there because he has a few questions to ask about Noah. Eve maintains her composure, holds her cup, and faces the newcomer with a completely cold gaze. She comments directly that it is very rare for him to decide to visit her out of nowhere. The young man settles onto the sofa and calmly replies that he was hoping to borrow her strength. He asks if their brother Cease isn't around, and she explains he went out to take care of a request from their father. The visitor gives a wicked smile, noting that this means she has no one to protect her right now. Eve quietly takes a sip of her tea and replies that she has great subordinates and will be fine. She asks what information he wants about Noah, and the young man praises his sister for reading his thoughts easily. He looks at his own hand and comments that their brother just woke up and has already managed to fight Julia. The young man clenches his fist in anger and states he wants to find out what the secret behind all his power is. He mentions that even her assassin was defeated, and she praises how well-informed her brother is about everything. However, she places her cup on the table and directly warns that unfortunately, she won't be able to help him. The young woman explains that she cannot provide any kind of information that directly interferes with the succession dispute. She knows that if she favors one brother, the others will try to end her, so she needs to treat everyone equally. The young man gets annoyed by the refusal and asks if she is really saying she won't cooperate with him under any circumstances. Eve stares at him and asks if he really thinks he has something valuable enough to make her risk her own life. The young man repeats her words with a very mocking smile on his face. He warns that she will find out the answer soon as a terrifying shadow looms behind her. The scene shows the massive tower of the Infinite Library. Standing out on the city horizon, Noah walks quietly through the busy streets of the local market in search of clues. The boy approaches an old building with magic symbols carved on the entrance sign. He opens the wooden door and enters the magic item shop. The shop owner, Osrek Harvez, appears at the door and warns that the place is closed at the moment. Noah explains he doesn't want to buy anything and reveals he wants to hire him as a guide in the Infinite Library. Osrek says he doesn't work as a guide anymore, but Noah insists, saying he knows the place better than anyone. The man gets annoyed by the comment, yells asking if he is the best, and tells the boy not to make him laugh. Noah finds that attitude strange, as he knew he was the type of man who loved that library. The boy asks directly if there is any special reason why he abandoned the work. Annoyed, Osrek slams his hand on the counter and says that is not a problem. A kid can solve. Right after, he puts his hand to his head, apologizes, and confesses his nerves have been very frayed lately. Suddenly, the bell on the entrance door rings, signaling that someone else has just arrived. A mysterious person enters the place, greets Noah, and friendly asks if he has been doing well. To everyone's surprise, Julia Daskul appears at the shop door, waving with a smile on her face. She explains she saw him while carrying out a mission, and Noah thinks to himself that she was actually tracking him. Osrek is completely in shock, realizing that the one before him is the legendary Julia Daskul. The startled merchant grabs the boy's shoulder, and Noah formally introduces himself as Noah Daskul. Osrek changes his mind and says he accepts the guide job on the condition that Julia goes along with them. Noah finds the sudden change of attitude strange and realizes there really is something serious behind it all. The man asks them both to follow him and leads them to a room in the back of the establishment. They enter the room and find a woman lying on a bed who seems to be very sick. Osrek sits beside her with a sad expression and begins to explain what happened a month ago. He says that a terrible dungeon monster ended up casting a horrible curse on his wife. Because of that, she fell into a deep sleep, and the man laments that the curse will eventually finish her. Julia comments that the easiest way to break the curse is by defeating the monster, and he agrees in frustration. The man begs for Julia's help, and she replies she doesn't mind, but sets a new condition. With a sarcastic smile, she warns that Noah will also have to help them defeat this terrible creature. She touches Noah's shoulder and says her condition for accepting the job is seeing her brother in action in combat. Noah gets tense and immediately realizes his sister suspects there is something wrong with his power. Without many options to choose from, the boy looks at Osrek and says they are counting on him as their guide. The man celebrates very excitedly, clenches his fist tightly, and assures them they can leave everything to him. Once outside the Great Tower, Noah asks if it is all right for her to drop her other mission to come here. Julia answers that it is fine, but silently thinks that what she really wants is to uncover her brother's secret. She remembers the fight they had and how she felt his attack came from something beyond his mana core. The girl wants to find out what he is hiding, and Noah deduces that someone strong like her would notice the difference in power. Osrek returns carrying a huge backpack on his back and apologizes to the siblings for the delay. With everything properly ready, Noah takes the lead and warns that it is time for them to enter the labyrinth for good. The group finally enters the main lobby of the tower, where many adventurers are waiting in line. Osrek goes to the service counter and tells the clerk that the three of them will enter together. Some adventurers recognize Osrek and whisper that the young ones must be his new victims. The guide points to the massive double stone doors and announces that this is the entrance to the library. With a lot of physical effort, Osrek pushes the heavy stone door open to clear the way. Noah is impressed as he enters and notices the immensity of that place filled with bookshelves. Julia comments with a smile that she can understand why they need a guide in here. Noah suddenly notices something unusual on the wall and is extremely surprised by what he sees. He closely observes an ancient mural depicting an epic battle with the invaders. The boy reflects that he hadn't paid attention to that detail the last time he was here. He notices the connection with the enemies of the future and thinks he might find a clue to victory there. Osrek interrupts Noah's thoughts, calling the group to start walking for real. The boy focuses back on their main goal, which is to find the Book of the Deep on the first floor. Osrek explains that the rarest books are located on the deepest levels. He analyzes the map and warns that the Book of UN should probably be on the 20th floor. Noah remembers that the 20th floor is the absolute limit any adventurer has ever managed to reach. The trio keeps walking and approaches a large blue magic circle glowing on the floor. 3 green monsters wielding weapons suddenly emerge from inside the magic circle. Osrek explains they always appear on the path and asks if Noah can handle those creatures. The young man calmly agrees and places his hand on the hilt of his sword, ready for combat. However, Julia is faster, charging forward with speed and delivering a devastating golden slash. All 3 monsters fall completely defeated to the ground before they can even react. Julia smiles proudly at her demonstration of power, and Osrek suggests they keep advancing. Upon reaching the 10th floor, the guide asks them both to keep a secret about what they are going to see. He approaches a bookshelf and pulls a specific book to activate a secret mechanism. A hidden passage in the wooden wall opens silently before the group's eyes. Osrek reveals that the magic circle on the floor is a shortcut that will make their trip much easier. The 3 position themselves in the center of the magic circle as they prepare for instant travel. The glowing rune activates with a strong bluish energy that begins to envelop everyone's body. A strong flash of white light takes over the secret room, teleporting the 3 of them away. Noah uses his arm to protect his eyes due to the intensity of the sudden magical glow. They appear in another room, and the guide warns they are at the access connecting the 19th to the 20th floor. Julia smiles excitedly, realizing that the monster of that level must be waiting for them just ahead. They walk toward a massive circular arena where another magic circle glows intensely. The group enters the combat area and observes the massive pillar of light projecting from the runic circle. Several gigantic dark roots begin to sprout quickly from the center of that magic energy. A colossal tree-shaped monster with several red eyes emerges imposingly in front of them. Osrek panics upon seeing that the creature has evolved into an Elder Trent since the last time he was there. Julia says it is no problem, but the guide desperately warns that this monster requires several elite groups. With a sarcastic smile, Julia questions why he thinks only the 2 of them would be fighting here. Julia smiles arrogantly and says she is more than enough to handle the creature alone. She charges with extreme agility toward the monster, wielding her sword ready to slice it up. The massive wooden monster reacts immediately, attacking her with its dangerous sharp branches. Julia shows great dexterity in dodging and destroying all the branches coming her way. She manages to close the distance and delivers a powerful direct blow to the opponent's main trunk. However, the strike only generates sparks as it collides with the giant monster's extremely thick bark. The girl quickly backs away to a defensive position and recognizes that the enemy is quite tough. Osrek panics and yells that its wood is as hard as steel and they need a mage to win. Before they could plan anything, several wooden tentacles quickly wrap around Julia's body. The young woman ends up completely trapped and immobilized by the enemy's massive amount of branches. The Elder Trent pulls her hard and begins to squeeze her intensely in an attempt to crush her bones. Noah gets extremely worried about his sister's situation and runs toward her to try and save her. However, a strong reddish magical energy begins to emerge and escape from inside the monster's claws. Julia casts the 5th form of her Shadow Flame style, creating a devastating whirlpool of dark flames. She frees herself easily and emerges using her powerful black armor of shadow flame to fight. Noah is shocked and wonders if what he is seeing before his eyes is actually armor made of flames. The young woman channels all her energy and prepares the first form of her feared combat style. Julia then prepares to unleash the devastating shadow flame sword dance technique. The tree monster tries to attack her once more, but she remains firm and focused on her next move. With agile steps, she charges fearlessly toward the opponent's massive mass of roots. The girl begins to cut and instantly set fire to all the branches trying to block her path. She leaps extremely high into the air and prepares a final blow with her blade wrapped in dark fire. The young woman releases a giant crescent-shaped slash that tears through the air with colossal force. The attack cuts the massive Elder Trent clean in half, making its body explode into pieces. Julia lands gracefully on the ground and seriously states that no metal would be able to stop her sword. Even with the monster destroyed, Osric yells desperately, warning that the fight isn't truly over. One of the enemy's surviving roots moves stealthily along the ground and grabs Julia's ankle. Several other wooden tentacles quickly emerge and wrap around her completely once more. She remains calm and concludes that this monster will keep regenerating unless she burns everything down. Julia is swallowed by the roots but begins to emanate an intense reddish glow from inside the cocoon. She begins to cast the third form of her style, and Noah notices the impending danger as he looks at her. The boy grabs Osric's arm and yells desperately for him to run from there as fast as possible. Julia's eyes glow red as she concentrates all her destructive power to blow everything up. The young woman then releases the Shadow Flame explosive burial technique, generating a massive detonation. A wave of dark red fire consumes the corridor, while Noah and Osric desperately flee from the impact. The terrible explosion destroys everything around and throws both young men hard straight to the ground. Noah and the guide stand up out of breath, and the boy realizes she destroyed everything to prevent the monster's regeneration. They look back and observe Julia's imposing silhouette emerging from the smoke and dying flames. The girl walks calmly toward them, sheathes her weapon, and asks if they can keep advancing. Osric stands with his mouth open, unable to believe she defeated the monster alone, while Noah just watches. Startled Noah thinks that the Shadow Flame style uses a lot of energy, but it has an absurd and unmatched offensive power on the entire continent. The trio continues running through the library corridors and passes through a massive wooden door. They reach the 20th floor of the Infinite Library and begin to search the massive bookshelves. Suddenly, Noah focuses his attention on one of the shelves, and his eyes widen as he spots something very important. He grabs a green-covered book with golden details and celebrates, saying he finally found it. Osric reminds him that now they just need to find the monster that cursed his wife, and Noah says that is the correct floor. Julia questions if the monsters shouldn't only appear near the stairs, but Noah explains that this creature is an exception. As they walk cautiously between the book aisles, the three hear a strange noise coming from nearby. They find an open book on top of a pedestal, revealing the illustration of a knight facing a giant. Noah approaches the object and holds it with his hands, murmuring intrigued to try and understand what it is. A dark voice whispers right behind him, saying it found him, leaving the boy completely paralyzed with fear. The book that was in Noah's hands begins to flip its pages on its own in a very fast and mysterious way. Noah breaks into a cold sweat from pure terror and tries to process the terrifying presence that suddenly appeared by his side. Julia draws her sword quickly, while Noah takes a defensive stance to protect the startled Osric. A giant monster in silver armor with a bizarre arm made of dry branches emerges right before the group. Osric points desperately at the enemy and yells, saying that is the jerk who cast the curse on his wife. Noah readies his sword and charges determined, commenting that the time has finally come to hunt that cursed monster. Julia steps in front of Noah with her flaming sword and firmly orders her brother to stay back. Enveloped by an aura of red energy, the girl says she will take care of that creature alone and heads into the attack. She executes a powerful slash, but the armored monster defends and blocks the attack using its massive blade. Julia exerts a lot of force to withstand the pressure while exchanging direct blows with the formidable opponent. The collision of forces generates a red shockwave that throws the young woman back with extreme violence. Julia lands in the middle of dust and falling books, unable to believe she is being dominated by the enemy's power, bleeding from the mouth. She leans on her sword and realizes a drawn-out battle against that monster is far too dangerous. She recovers in the blink of an eye and charges again with extreme speed toward the armored giant. The two collide their weapons once more in the middle of the hall, creating sparks and a large discharge of dark energy. While protecting Osrek behind a stack of books, Noah watches shocked by the absurd speed of that combat. Noah thinks he can barely keep up with Julia's movements. Yet that monster blocks everything head-on without any trouble. Julia executes a frantic sequence of aerial slashes, but the enemy defends every single one of her strikes with precision. The young woman backs away and lands crouching on the ground, keeping her eyes fixed on her opponent while planning her next move. She places her hand on the ground and activates a red magic circle, casting the second form of the Shadow Flame style. A giant whirlpool of fire appears around the armored monster, swallowing it completely in the destructive flames. Osrek celebrates, thinking the hit will work, but Noah gets suspicious and asks the guide to wait a moment. Suddenly, the monster emerges unharmed in the middle of the fire and delivers a devastating vertical slash toward Julia. The girl skillfully dodges the deadly blow and leaps over it, shouting that she managed to catch him this time. She takes advantage of the opening to deliver a powerful downward strike right on top of the armored enemy's helmet. Julia lets out a groan of pain and shock as she realizes something went terribly wrong at the exact moment she was about to land the hit. The monster moves with absurd speed and lands a violent counterattack that throws the warrior far away. She recovers on the ground holding her wound and angrily curses for failing to break. Through the opponent's defense, Noah watches everything worried and realizes that even with the power of the Shadow Flame style, that fight will be very difficult. Julia realizes in frustration that she didn't manage to leave even a single scratch on that monster's heavy armor. Suddenly, the monster's helmet opens, revealing a terrifying mouth that begins to glow with intense green energy. Julia looks startled at her own left arm and realizes it is being consumed by that mysterious green energy. Without giving her time to react, the creature fires a massive blast of greenish energy directly at the girl. Noah quickly leaps and grabs Julia by the shoulders, throwing them both to the ground to save her from being hit by the devastating attack. The impact of the energy beam destroys the area and creates a massive column of smoke rising toward the library ceiling. Noah says he will help in the fight and asks if she can still fight, and Julia answers yes but warns him to be careful with its hands. The young woman explains that touching those bizarre branch hands will cause anyone to be hit by a terrible curse. She laments that with her left arm weakened by the curse, she won't be able to put enough strength to deliver a deadly blow with a serious look. Noah turns to his sister and says he needs to ask for a very important favor to manage to win the fight. While the monster begins to charge that same green blast from before, Noah plans to use this opportunity to his advantage. He asks if she can repeat the previous move, and Julia answers, finding it funny that he is asking for something that almost finished her. She accepts the plan and charges determined to cut the enemy's hands first, closely followed by her brother Noah. Julia creates a distraction attacking from the front, while Noah moves quickly from the sides, wrapped in purple lightning. She activates the Shadow Flame Sword Dance, while Noah uses the Masse-style Light and Shadow Sword Dance. The two deliver their combined attacks at the same time, hitting the armored monster with overwhelming force from two sides. The collision of the two sword styles generates a gigantic explosion of red and golden energy right in the center of the hall. The flames expand quickly and cover the entire area, creating an incredibly destructive and loud curtain of fire. Noah and Julia land with agility on the ground and prepare to check if the double attack was enough to finish off the monster. To their surprise, the creature emerges in the middle of the smoke, roaring loudly and appearing to have suffered almost no serious damage. Noah and his sister hold their defensive positions, while the boy thinks impressed by that enemy's absurd resistance. The monster tries to crush them with a violent downward blow, but Julia manages to dodge by leaping to the opposite side. While Julia stays in the air to buy time, Noah confronts the creature directly on the ground with his charged sword. Noah makes an immense effort to block the opponent's massive red blade, using all his mana and holy light energy. Seeing that he won't be able to hold the pressure for long, the boy screams with all his strength for his sister to get away from there. Julia activates the second form of the Ion style and is wrapped in intense golden flames as she plunges from above toward the target. She hits the armored monster with all the power of the strike, generating a devastating impact that shakes the entire structure of the place. Even after taking the hit, the terrible creature opens its glowing maw and begins to charge its destructive green energy again. Seeing that his brother Noah is directly in the line of fire of the impending attack, Julia screams his name in complete despair. Without backing down a single step, Noah positions himself with determination and prepares to cast a powerful technique of the Masse style. He channels all his strength into the weapon and activates the bipolar blade technique to deliver a decisive blow against his opponent. Noah charges with extreme speed in a golden vertical slash that illuminates the entire library hall with an intense glow. with extreme precision. He manages to thrust his sword right into the middle of the creature's wide-open maw before it could fire. The boy pushes the blade all the way in to seal the enemy's energy, making the monster shake with the power of the holy light. However, Noah realizes something went wrong as he notices the creature's red energy remains unstable and about to explode. Julia quickly appears and casts the Shadow Flame Whirlpool, covering the monster in red flames to protect her brother. The girl lands firmly and comments with a slight smile that now the two are finally even for saving each other. Noah notes that his strongest technique didn't hurt the enemy and gets worried seeing that his sister's mana core is almost depleted. Faced with that desperate situation and without many options, he begins to wonder if retreating from there is the only logical choice. The armored giant continues walking slowly toward the two, leaving Noah and Julia on maximum alert. Noah and Julia are shocked when they realize a second identical monster suddenly appears before them. At that moment, a mysterious voice echoes criticizing Noah's skills, and the boy immediately recognizes the tone of the speaker. Suddenly, Noah's consciousness is transported to a massive, empty space filled with a thick white mist. Before him, a strong yellowish light glows, and the voice comments that Noah's hybrid powers are finally blending. Noah holds his sword tightly and angrily asks who that entity is and exactly what place he is in right now. The light reveals that he is the first heir to the Divine Authority Core in centuries and decides to give him some help so he doesn't end up finished there. Back in reality, the monster raises its sword to attack, while the mysterious voice orders Noah to finish the fight with a single blow. Julia notices her brother is frozen in front of the danger and screams desperately, asking what he thinks he is doing. A blue system screen appears, confirming the awakening of the successor, and unlocks the powerful Divine Authority Core system. Noah wields his sword with extreme firmness and begins to channel the second form of the Divine Authority style. An overwhelming amount of golden energy and lightning wraps around the boy's body, illuminating the entire battlefield with his eyes glowing intensely. Noah proclaims the name of his new devastating technique called Heaven's Double Splitter. He executes a quick motion and releases powerful blasts of golden energy that charge directly against the opponents. Both armored monsters are hit dead-on by Noah's technique and begin to be torn apart by the overwhelming power. Noah gives a slight smirk and finally understands that this is the true hidden power of his magical holy core. The young man says the enemy's fun is over and swears with great determination that he will return all the suffering twofold. The boy concentrates several beams of golden energy around himself while facing the two armored monsters trying to surround him. One of the monsters charges fiercely against Noah, but a new blue system window appears and accepts the confrontation instantly. Back in the mist-filled mental space, Noah observes his sword transform into a blade of pure golden fire. He looks surprised at the weapon, while the mysterious voice confirms that the succession of the divine core has been carried out with complete success. A majestic figure wrapped in brilliant light begins to slowly materialize in the middle of that spiritual dimension. The tall man with long golden hair and shining armor reveals himself and stands face to face with Noah. In silence, Noah asks the stranger's identity, and the man introduces himself as Zekus Varmut, the previous heir of the Divine Core. Noah questions if the Divine Core is his own power, and Zekus reveals that those monsters are actually just defective products. Zekus explains that, in the ancient age of the gods, invaders from the outside attacked the world, and the Divine Core was a power given to fight them. He goes on to say that humanity lost that ancient war because of petty internal disputes and conflicts among themselves. The warrior bitterly remembers that he ended up stabbed in the back by other rival factions who feared his immense power. He says that to ensure that power would never rise again, the rival factions decided to split it into two defective parts. Noah concludes that the two halves were once one, and Zekus confirms that is why the boy was able to inherit it by possessing both parts. Noah asks him to answer one more thing and asks if the warrior would be capable of defeating the invaders had he not been betrayed. Zekus answers with absolute pride that he certainly would have wiped out all the terrible invaders if he had the chance to fight. Noah clenches his own fist firmly and reflects that with this extraordinary power, he will finally be able to change the course of destiny. Zekus warns that with his current level that is impossible and instructs Noah to defeat strong enemies to push the core to its absolute limit. With a confident smile plastered on his face, the boy replies that is exactly his intention from that moment on. Pleased with Noah's determination, Zekus gives a slight smile and says the boy must start proving his strength immediately. Zekus tells him to show his worth by clearing out the trash in front of him, and Noah awakens in reality, glowing with golden beams. He executes a quick spin and prepares his sword wrapped in glowing flames to deliver a precise blow to the opponent. Noah charges fearless and collides his weapon directly against the massive branch-like hand the armored monster used to attack. With his gaze overflowing with fury and power, he assures with authority that this time he will cut the terrible monster in half. The colossal clash between the two powers generates an absurd shockwave that shatters the floor and throws books all over the library. Noah freely manipulates 6 blades of golden light with the twin heaven violent slash technique to tear the enemy apart. The beams of light cut through the air with extreme precision and sever the armored monster's mutant left arm. Osrek watches the scene, impressed, and yells that Noah used that golden light to rip off the monster's arm in one go. With the impact of the devastating attack, the giant's body is thrown back in the middle of a large amount of sparks. Noah takes advantage of the monster's moment of vulnerability, charges quickly, and makes a deep cut on the opponent's chest. With a confident smile on his face, the Prota comments that now the tables have finally turned in their favor. He turns in the blink of an eye and delivers another rapid sequence of golden strikes against the second armored enemy. The monster roars in pain as it is hit consecutively by Noah's powerful light blades cutting through its armor. Noah cuts off the first creature's head in a clean and cold manner, calmly commenting that one is already dealt with. Right after, he delivers a final blow to the second opponent, making him plunge to the ground completely destroyed. The green core of malignant energy that sustained the monsters shatters and disperses in the air, ending the threat there. Julia screams desperately for Noah to get out of the way, noticing a new threat or danger suddenly emerging in the place. A massive blast of green energy is fired against the group, but Noah steps in front and prepares to contain the impact. He crosses his golden light blades in front of him, creating a tough barrier to block the terrible energy beam. The greenish attack collides fiercely against Noah's golden shield, generating immense pressure and sparks everywhere. The energy is completely repelled by Noah's light shield and explodes in the air, dissipating without hurting anyone else. With the destruction of the power source, the remains of the monster's heavy armor begin to crumble and turn to smoke on the ground. Noah deactivates his golden light blades and takes a deep breath. Victorious after the difficult and intense battle against the enemies, Julia lies on the ground, unable to believe her brother managed to block that terrible attack without taking a single scratch. Noah looks coldly at the opponent's remains and calmly comments that this was the second monster defeated on the floor. He silently observes the remaining energy of the monster being absorbed and disappearing completely in the library air. The creature's body explodes in a bright golden light, confirming that the threat on that floor has been totally eliminated. Noah sheathes his sword calmly, while the divine energy around his hand begins to slowly fade. A system screen warns that the target has been eliminated. The divine core has risen to level 2, and the 5-color skill has been acquired. Noah sees a new system message congratulating him on the victory, and realizes right away that those words were sent by Zekas. Zekas's message explains that this is how the divine core grows, and asks the boy to use this new power wisely. Noah clenches his fist and understands what it means to get stronger in battle. Getting surprised at having obtained a new technique, Osrek runs emotionally toward Noah and asks impressed if the young hero really managed to defeat the terrible monster. Julia examines the fallen body of the creature with a large hole in its chest and seriously confirms it is completely dead. She looks at her own arm and notices with relief that all the malignant energy has disappeared, indicating the curse has been broken. Julia warns Osrek that his wife's curse must also have been broken, and the guide cries with happiness, unable to believe it. Julia tells them to head back home, but privately wonders how Noah was such a low-level warrior until recently. She stares directly at Noah and asks where he learned that technique, leaving the Prota quite tense and not knowing what to say. Julia deduces he cannot say and explains there are several swordsmanship styles based on how the user manipulates their mana core. She mentions the fundamental magic sword style, showing the mental image of a skilled swordsman mastering his magic weapon. She also mentions the attack-focused shadow flame style, which uses the destructive power of fire to subdue any type of opponent. She mentions the speed-focused Shadow Thunder style, which allows the user to move extremely fast across the battlefield. Lastly, she recalls the deception-focused Deep Darkness style, ideal for hiding movements and surprising enemies in the shadows. Julia seriously states that the technique used by Noah doesn't belong to any of those styles, and asks directly what he is hiding. A tense silence settles in the corridor, while the two siblings stare fixedly into each other's eyes, trying to decipher each other's intentions. Julia gives a little smile and says, "It's fine," deciding not to push the matter any further. She walks away and says she is looking forward to the day when they will fight for each other's mana cores. Sometime later, the scene changes to the outside of an imposing large house under a clear sky. The man asks if that is the Book of Eternity he retrieved, and Noah confirms, saying he is going to trade it with Sister Eve for information. However, upon entering one of the mansion rooms, the two find the place completely messy and destroyed. Noah asks, startled, what happened, and Cease answers furiously that he failed, and that Sister Eve was kidnapped while he was away on a mission. Another ally approaches and reveals the culprit was Skull. According to the account of one of Eve's servants who was hiding in the mansion, she seriously adds that the man must have taken Eve with the goal of making her talk and hand over what she knows. Noah immediately realizes Skull was the one behind all the assassins sent previously. Noah says the solution is simple and they must go rescue Eve, but the ally asks, startled, if he really plans to oppose Lord Skull. Noah repeats the question mockingly and states the situation won't be as balanced as the man is thinking. With a cold and determined look, the Prota guarantees that what is about to begin is just a completely one-sided retaliation. C stands up and says he is going along to fix his own mistakes, leaving the ally even more shocked by their decision. The man asks them to wait at least until they gather the troops, but Noah answers they don't have time for that. He adds, stating with pride that the blades of the Daskul family do not break, no matter how outnumbered they are. The ally finally understands, and Noah says they will finish this quickly and return, asking him to protect the house while they are away. The warrior readily agrees and firmly guarantees he will protect the place, even if it costs his own life. Noah decides it is time to depart and firmly declares they are going to invade Skull's estate once and for all. The two get on their horses and begin riding at high speed along a dirt road toward the destination. Cease asks if Eve is safe and comments that, as her former guard, he knows very well she is not the type to easily let herself be defeated by Skull. Noah notices his companion really trusts her a lot and asks why he decided to become Eve's guard in the first place. Cease begins to explain and pensively reveals that his mana core was always his biggest problem. He says his mana core was far inferior when compared to the power of all his other brothers and sisters. At that moment, a warm memory of Eve smiling at him and extending her hand rises in his mind. He explains he needed to refine his fighting style and get information about new combat skills since many techniques are kept secret. Noah listens closely to the account and finally understands the reason his ally's combat style is so unpredictable in battles. Cease states that, for the sake of his own strength and evolution, he will ensure by any means that Eve remains safe and sound. Upon arriving before a massive iron gate, Cease warns that first they need to find out where exactly Eve is being held prisoner. Noah gets down from his horse calmly and warns there will be no need for them to keep hiding or acting stealthily. He channels his powerful mana and takes a firm step forward, making a colorful energy aura emanate intensely around his body. Without hesitating, the Prota charges at high speed toward enemy territory, while Cease follows right behind wielding his sword. Upon entering, the two come across a literal army of masked assassins positioned right in front of Skull's grand mansion. Cease observes the opponents and alerts Noah that this is Skull's feared personal assassination unit. He also makes an important warning that all members of that group are extremely experienced and dangerous warriors. The masked leader of the group mocks them and says he can't believe they were foolish enough to walk straight through the front door. Noah coldly answers that he has no interest in dealing with small fry and demands that they bring Skull out there once and for all. The masked man gets quite annoyed and retorts, saying Noah clearly still doesn't understand the gravity of the situation he is in. Suddenly, one of the assassins moves silently through the shadows and emerges right behind Noah to deliver a deadly surprise attack. With absurd reflexes, Noah turns in a fraction of a second and easily blocks the enemy sword's strike, generating sparks. Next, the Prota delivers a devastating counterattack that hits the enemy dead on and throws him violently far away. The leader of the assassins points his weapon and aggressively warns that if they dare oppose Lord Skull, they will have no mercy. Noah prepares with determination and channels his impressive, colorful aura to start a new direct clash. The two warriors' swords collide with tremendous force, generating a powerful impact on the battlefield. They begin to exchange extremely fast strikes in a frantic sequence of continuous attacks and blocks. Meanwhile, Cease gets completely surrounded by several masked assassins who leap in his direction to attack him at the same time. He shows great agility by leaping high, easily dodging the coordinated attack of all the opponents. Cease prepares his technique in the air and announces he will use the third form of the Shadow Thunder style. He strikes the ground with fury and activates the Shadow Thunder Rupture, summoning a massive blue lightning bolt that hits the area. The powerful electrical shockwave spreads quickly and throws all surrounding enemies through the air. The opponents scream in pain as they fall defeated and seriously injured on the ground because of the devastating blow. The young blonde warrior provocatively challenges the remaining enemies, telling them to bring everything they've got. Noah observes the situation from the corner of his eye and is relieved to realize Cease managed to handle that side on his own. The leader of the assassins takes advantage of the distraction to attack from behind, yelling that he shouldn't underestimate them during a clash. However, the opponent throws a mysterious talisman into the air, leaving Noah quite surprised by that unexpected action. The magic paper begins to burn intensely and activates a large red magic circle glowing in the skies. Seeing the ground under his feet glow red, Noah looks around confused and wonders what that strange magic is. The leader explains that this is a secret technique, created specifically with the sole purpose of assassinating the members of the Daskul family. He charges fiercely from above with his dark blade and yells for Noah to experience that destructive power for himself. Noah observes the enemy's rapid approach with total focus and prepares to react to the impending danger. The system displays the status of the opponent named Vault Greig, revealing he is a high-level swordsman and heir to secret techniques. Noah tries to cast his own power, announcing he will use the second form of the Kamui style to combat the threat. However, he becomes completely paralyzed and in shock upon realizing that something is very wrong with his mana. Vault delivers his dark strike successfully, cutting through the air and hitting Noah's defense quite effectively. Noah realizes in horror that he cannot use any of his skills and concludes that the previous attack ended up sealing his mana core. The leader of the assassins smiles victoriously and arrogantly warns that he will never manage to beat them using just basic swordsmanship. Cease runs and positions himself beside Noah while the glowing red mark remains active under the feet of both. Noah evaluates the situation worried, realizing the number of opponents around them is also very unfavorable at that moment. Cease grunts, annoyed, commenting that having his mana core sealed in the middle of a battle is a massive headache. Cease says he will hold the enemies there and tells Noah to go ahead, making the Prota ask worriedly if he will be fine alone. Cease tells the young man not to worry about his older brother and tells him to run to defeat Skull and bring Eve back safely. Noah trusts his companion and charges forward quickly, passing straight through the assassins as he runs toward the main palace. Some masked enemies notice the movement and begin running after Noah to try to prevent him from advancing further. Cease gives a confident smile and comments that even though his mana core is sealed, he can still use common magic to fight. He hits the ground and activates the Stone Path spell, making a massive rock pillar suddenly rise and throw the enemies. The gigantic stone pillar extends to the palace balcony, serving as a perfect ramp for Noah to climb and escape with ease. Cease yells from below, warning Noah to look for the Annex Palace, as that is the most likely location where Eve is being held. Annoyed, Vault yells that the hero is going nowhere and furiously orders all his soldiers to go after him immediately. However, Cease uses his magic to create a massive wall filled with sharp stone spikes that hits the pursuers dead on. Vault lets out a grunt of frustration as he is forced to back away before the massive, deadly barrier that appeared right in front of him. He looks shocked to the side and sees almost all of his elite warriors completely defeated and trapped on the terrible rock spikes. Vault Greig stares at the barrier of spikes in front of him, completely shocked, unable to believe what he is seeing. Cease points his sword with a confident smile and says that now he is the only one the enemy will have to deal with from then on. Inside the palace, Skull approaches Eve, who is tied to a chair, and asks if she is finally ready to give him information about Noah. Eve answers firmly that it doesn't matter how many times he asks, while Skull just comments on how stubborn she is. He says he captured several of her maids and provocatively asks if she really doesn't care about what will happen to them. Eve fires back, saying it is an absolute shame that a piece of trash like him is her brother, leaving Skull extremely furious at her words. Skull hears screams and battle noises coming from outside and comments in surprise that things are getting quite loud out there. Eve smiles and suggests Noah has finally arrived, but Skull mocks, saying their younger brother is very foolish to try and enter straight through the front door, with a challenging look. Eve comments that her older brother simply still hasn't understood anything of what is happening. She explains that cowardly tactics do not suit the Daskul family, and proudly states that Noah possesses the most important thing of all, his pride. Eve laughs and adds she is glad she let herself be captured, because now she will finally be able to see what Noah is truly capable of doing. Skull becomes completely out of control with her insolence and prepares to draw his weapon with a lot of anger in his gaze. Suddenly, the room door is cut and destroyed with full force, revealing that Noah finally managed to invade the place. In an imposing manner, Noah looks directly at her and decidedly warns that he has finally come to rescue her from that situation. He calls her by name calmly, while firmly staring at his traitorous brother right in front of him. Eve gives a relaxed smile to the hero and sarcastically jokes, saying he ended up taking far too long to arrive. Skull points his glowing sword directly at the Proto and yells his name with a lot of hatred and irritation. The villain positions himself for combat and firmly declares they are going to settle that rivalry once and for all with a smug and arrogant smile on his face. Skull asks provocatively if the Proto really thinks he is capable of beating him. Noah remains calm and answers in a very simple and direct way that obviously he is absolutely sure of his own victory. Furious at his opponent's audacity, Skull yells at him not to answer that way and charges with everything to deliver a deadly strike. The two exchange the first powerful sword blow, causing sparks and energy to spread throughout the entire room. The violent impact of the clash destroys the mansion wall, throwing both to the outdoor area in the middle of a cloud of smoke. In the air and on the ground, they continue exchanging extremely fast sword strikes in a frantic contest of skill and reflexes. The two finally land on the stone ground of the outer courtyard, keeping in guard against each other as they stare fixedly. Noah closely observes his opponent's movements, coldly analyzing the combat stance adopted by Skull. The system displays Skull Daskul's status, showing he possesses incredibly high combat attributes and is the actual founder of the Yuan style. Noah asks his brother to explain the reason for making him a target and why he went so far as to use children to send assassins. Skull lets out a sarcastic smile on his face and answers cynically, asking if the reason for all of that isn't already obvious. He charges with fury again with his dark sword and yells out loud that the real reason is that he simply cannot stand Noah. Noah shows incredible speed by easily dodging Skull's downward blow, remaining unharmed. He notices with relief that his mana core's seal has disappeared, concluding that this happened because he left the previous magic circle. Skull roars with envy, saying Noah is weak and that he hates the fact that their father recognized only the Proto. Noah blocks the fierce attack with absolute precision, making his powerful golden energy collide directly with his rival's dark blade. Blinded by hatred, Skull releases a massive amount of dark energy around himself and desperately yells for the Proto to just end already. Noah executes a spectacular acrobatics maneuver to slide under the villain's onslaught in an extremely fast way. The two warriors back, away from each other temporarily, creating a safe short distance in the makeshift stone arena. Noah mentally recognizes his swordsmanship is excellent for mixing real strikes with feints to deceive him, being a very practical tactic. Skull points his weapon wrapped in a thick pinkish energy and orders Noah to become the perfect bait for him to win the succession battle. The villain concentrates fully and arrogantly announces he will use the powerful third form of the feared Yuan style under Skull's command. A massive army of phantom skeletons emerges from the dark smoke, initiating the night parade of the ghostly armies. Noah reacts instantly, unleashing a powerful slashing strike of golden light that shatters several skeletons all at once. The MC dodges more incoming attacks, wondering if this entire horde of monsters is just a clever distraction set up by his rival. Suddenly, a skeleton catches him off guard from above, lunging down to strike his back with a sword. Showing rapid reflexes, Noah raises his weapon and blocks the blow, completely taken aback by the sheer physical weight of the impact. He grits his teeth as he realizes these creatures are no mere illusions, carrying real physical form and heavy impact in their strikes. As Noah tries to recover his footing from the clash, more and more skeletons charge forward, weapons raised, ready to swarm him. He leaps high into the air at the very last second, firing a beam of golden light to obliterate the monsters gathered right below him. Mid-air, the MC focuses his mind and decides to trigger the second form of the Shinwi style to sweep the entire battlefield. He executes the violent slash of the Twin Heavens technique, unleashing colossal waves of golden energy across the entire area. The devastating waves of golden light slice through the air, tearing apart dozens of enemy skeletons simultaneously. Noah lands gracefully onto the stone courtyard as the final traces of his powerful golden technique fade away. However, seeing a fresh horde of skeletons immediately rising from the shadows, he grumbles about how annoying this situation is. With no other choice, Noah keeps pushing forward, executing swift circular slashes to keep the monsters clear from his path. Our hero fixes his gaze directly on Skull, who simply watches the clash from a safe distance, protected by his undead army. Skull is visibly shocked to realize that Noah is successfully holding off and containing his entire skeleton army completely on his own. Seizing a brief opening, Noah dashes forward at incredible speed, slips past the monsters, and clashes his blade directly against Skull's even during their direct clash. The surrounding skeletons waste no time and try to strike the hero from behind. Once again, Noah executes a rapid spinning maneuver, using his golden technique to block the monsters while keeping the pressure on his rival. The battle between the two brothers grows even more intense, with both exchanging fierce blows as sparks of energy fly everywhere. Noah shouts with determination that no matter how many weaklings his brother summons, none of them will ever stand a chance at stopping him. Our hero unleashes a massive strike of golden light that shatters Skull's defense, sending him flying backward across the battlefield. Skull lets out a frustrated groan as he hits the ground and slides back, realizing the situation is spinning completely out of his control. Suddenly, a massive crack begins to split the stone courtyard, pouring out a thick smoke of dark, magical energy. The ground shatters completely as a colossal force begins to rise from the depths, breaking the surrounding floor to pieces. Noah quickly leaps backward to avoid getting caught in the collapse, staring at the destruction in absolute surprise right before the MC's eyes. A gargantuan creature emerges from the rubble, revealing itself as a massive dragon made entirely of bones. Skull points his sword at Noah in a fury, loudly ordering the giant beast to tear him to shreds without an ounce of mercy. The terrifying skeleton dragon lets out a deafening roar as it prepares to strike Noah down with all its destructive power. Instead of backing away in fear, Noah flashes a confident smirk, noting that this is the perfect moment to test a newly acquired power. The system screen flashes, announcing that the Shinwi Tower level has risen to 12 and the new Holy Dark Eye skill has been unlocked. Our hero intensely channels his mana, announcing that he will now unleash the 5th form of his powerful Shinwi combat style. With his eye glowing a brilliant gold, he activates the 5-color technique known as the Holy Dark Eye. He takes a spectacular leap toward the skies, easily dodging the giant dragon's massive charge as it slams into the ground. The skeleton dragon is left utterly confused and shocked, realizing its target vanished from its line of sight in the blink of an eye. Positioned directly above the monster's head, Noah begins to dive down at high speed, gathering a massive amount of energy into his weapon. The two opponents stare each other down for a split second, knowing this single strike will decide the outcome of their battle. With overwhelming power, Noah drives his sword into the skeleton dragon's head, releasing a massive surge of electrical energy. The giant creature is instantly subdued and halts its attack, leaving Skull completely speechless as he watches his monster get dominated. In a desperate panic, Skull screams, demanding to know what the dragon is doing, and furiously orders it to attack and finish Noah off. Noah remarks that his efforts are entirely pointless, explaining that the Holy Dark Eye decodes the opponent's technique to seize complete control. Noah declares that the beast is under his command now, prompting Skull to scream in rage, telling him to stop his annoying tricks. Left with no other option, Skull quickly prepares to use the 1st form of the Yuan style to counter the advancing giant dragon. He triggers the Shadow Piercing Fang technique, unleashing an extremely rapid strike that lands a direct hit on the colossal beast. The impact of Skull's shadow attack triggers a massive pink explosion, completely obliterating the bone dragon's head. Taking advantage of the smokescreen from the blast, Noah nimbly and silently appears right behind his opponent. With a shout of determination, our hero delivers a swift diagonal slash that strikes the villain's back with tremendous force. Skull lets out a painful groan as he gets hit and thrown forward, spilling a considerable amount of blood onto the stone floor. The villain presses his hand against his wound, muttering that he did not want to resort to this, but now he has no other choice. He pulls a small metal whistle from his robes and blows it, instantly releasing a dark aura of smoke from his mouth. The sound of the whistle triggers a large magical portal crackling with electricity and dark energy, appearing right behind Skull. Emerging from the portal is the young dark-haired girl, firmly escorted by 2 armed assassins wielding swords. Skull flashes a wicked grin, pointing out that the MC came all the way to this dangerous place just to save his beloved sister. The villain asks him how he likes the view, while one of his henchmen presses a sharp blade directly against her neck. Skull coldly warns that if he takes a single step, she will be finished right then and there, prompting our hero to call him a coward with pure rage in his eyes. Adopting an arrogant stance, Skull cynically promises that he will let her go as soon as he is done finishing the MC off, once and for all. Noah grits his teeth in deep frustration, feeling completely helpless against his brother's cruel blackmail. Suddenly, a colossal beam of red energy violently strikes the battlefield, carving a massive crater into the ground between them. Skull screams in shock and quickly retreats as he watches the terrifying attack slice through the air, cutting off his advance completely out of nowhere. Out of the smoke emerges an imposing knight, clad in heavy black armor and holding a large shield, protecting the young girl right behind him. Skull drops to his knees, turning pale as a sheet, and asks in terror if that is their brother Damien. While Noah watches the scene in confusion, Damien calmly explains in an imposing tone that Eve had already declared she would not take part in the succession battle, and Skull should have known better. Completely losing his cool and patience, Skull screams back. Asking why that rule even matters at this stage of the game, Damien locks his glowing red eyes onto him and darkly declares that he is going to put an end to Skull for daring to break the sacred rules. The villain begins to tremble in fear as he feels the immense pressure and chilling intent to eliminate him, radiating from his stronger brother Damien, delivers a brief and extremely cold warning, telling Skull not to push his patience under any circumstances. He firmly adds that this dispute must remain a fair fight for the right to claim a mana core. The powerful knight sternly warns that no matter who the opponent is, he will not tolerate anyone standing in his way. He acknowledges that interfering in a mana battle is also a violation of the rules, so he decides to take a step back and let the clash resume. Damien orders Noah and Skull to fight each other to their heart's content, assuring them he will simply watch from afar to see how it all ends. Noah gets back into his combat stance and tells his rival that they are going to pick up their fight exactly where they left off. He flashes a mocking smile, asking sarcastically if his brother is simply unable to fight without using innocent hostages or children as shields. Skull clicks his tongue in sheer anger, complaining that every single one of them keeps looking down on him and underestimating his power. The villain channels all of his remaining dark energy, announcing he will now unleash the terrifying seventh form of his Yuan combat style. An overwhelming amount of purple smoke materializes around his body, creating an extremely intimidating aura of dark power. Blinded by fury, Skull points his weapon directly at our hero and screams that this time he will slice him into 1,000 pieces without hesitation. Noah raises his guard, mentally reminding himself that the primary strength of the Yuan sword style lies in tricking and deceiving the opponent. Noah plans his strategy, thinking that if he maintains constant pressure without giving him a single opening, he will gain a massive upper hand in the duel. The two clash their swords fiercely in the center of the stone courtyard, initiating a high-speed, close-quarters battle. The blades cross multiple times in a fraction of a second, sending shockwaves and bright sparks flying across the entire surrounding area. Noah charges fiercely, unleashing the second form of the Shinwi style, the violent slash of the twin heavens, which fires powerful golden beams. Noah's golden blasts fly straight towards Skull, but the villain wraps himself in dark energy to counter the incoming technique. Noah is surprised to see that Skull has managed to block his twin heaven strike so directly. Wasting no time, Skull prepares to counterattack using the fourth form of his Yuan style. The villain channels his power and executes the Avidya Shadow Slash. Launching an attack charged with dark and red energy, Noah attempts to defend himself, crossing his sword against the multiple shadow strikes rapidly flying his way. Our hero exerts a massive effort to withstand the overwhelming pressure of Skull's attack, which threatens to break his guard. Bearing a small scratch on his cheek, Noah notes that this is an unstoppable strike boosted by his rival's mana core. Noah is ultimately pushed back by the impact, managing to steady himself while Skull maintains a safe distance. Skull charges at him with everything he has, shouting and asking where he thinks he is going. The two clash their swords with extreme violence once again, sending gold and red sparks flying across the courtyard. Noah lets out a painful grunt as he is pressed hard by his opponent's heavy assault. Skull remarks with contempt, finding it unbelievable that his brother still managed to avoid a fatal blow in that state. Noah supports himself with his sword and begins focusing his yellow energy to strike back against his rival's onslaught. Our hero unleashes a burst of golden energy from the ground, creating a protective barrier of light to push his opponent back. The bright golden light spreads across the battlefield, forcing both warriors to temporarily back away from each other. Noah realizes that the deceptive swordsmanship of the Yuan style possesses enough defensive power to withstand his twin heaven strike. Noah questions why someone so strong would resort to cowardly tricks when he could have easily fought fairly for the succession. Skull bitterly reveals that their father never acknowledged him, claiming that a talent for illusions was completely useless to the Dazkul family. He explains that this is exactly why he created a brand new style called Yuan to fully tap into his true potential. Yet, even after all the grueling effort he put in, his father continued to not care in the slightest about his existence. With a dark expression, Skull says that his only remaining option now is to win this competition at any cost. He declares that he will force their father to finally recognize his strength through this succession battle. Skull asserts that he will do this even if he has to play dirty, as a massive column of red energy erupts from his body. The villain says that talk is over and orders his brother to become the fuel for his grand victory. Skull raises his sword and begins conjuring the 9th form of the Yuan style. He activates the Dragon Slayer Burial, causing a colossal creature made of dark red energy to materialize in the sky. The gargantuan energy dragon flies high up into the clouds, drawing the attention of everyone present in the palace. The terrifying red energy beast dives down at incredible speed, charging directly toward Noah. The attack slams into the ground with a tremendous impact, triggering a violent explosion that shatters the stone floor. Amid the smoke and red debris, a golden barrier of energy stands firm. Bravely resisting the impact, Noah manages to stay on his feet thanks to his magical protection, but his golden aura begins to weaken rapidly. Skull watches his brother's resistance as the imposing red dragon continues to hover right behind him. Noah breathes heavily, realizing his energy is almost completely drained after holding off that devastating blow. Skull smiles victoriously, mocking that Noah's mana core has reached its absolute limit, and a swordsman without mana stands no chance against him. Noah quietly reaches into his robes, preparing to put something in his mouth in a final, desperate effort. Skull spots his brother's movement and is left confused by what is about to happen. Noah reveals a red pill, explaining that he solidified the very poison Skull had been giving him all this time. Without hesitating for a single second, our hero swallows the poison pill in one gulp. Skull screams in desperation, asking if he has lost his mind, since that substance forces a mana core to overload and collapse. Noah explains that since his body had already overcome the poison's effects in the past, the substance will now have a completely different effect. He reveals that the substance now acts as the perfect medicine to restore all of his mana in an instant. At that very moment, a system screen alerts Noah that he has acquired the level 20 skill of the 2nd form, called the Flash of Light and Darkness. Noah thinks to himself that he has a crucial reason not to lose, having sworn to never let that terrible tragedy happen again. Our hero channels all of his newly restored energy to activate the 2nd form of his powerful Shinwi style. Noah roars as he unleashes the Flash of Light and Darkness. Blanketing the battlefield in a massive wave of brilliant energy, Noah screams with all his might as he strikes directly toward the massive red beast created by his opponent. Noah's golden slash and Skull's red energy dragon collide head-on in the palace courtyard, generating an enormous impact. The clash of the two monstrous techniques triggers a gigantic explosion of red and yellow energy, devastating everything around. The resulting shockwave expands violently, engulfing both fighters in a blinding flash of light. A massive sphere of fire and energy forms in the center of the courtyard, scattering dust and destruction across the combat zone. Dark smoke and debris rise high into the sky as the force of the impact shakes the stone palace structures. Damien uses his massive metal shield to protect himself from the terrible storm of wind and debris kicked up by the collision. The giant cloud of dust and heat slowly begins to clear after the devastating clash between the two warriors. Damien stands motionless in front of the young girl, ensuring that not a single trace of that violent energy reaches his sister. The imposing knight and the young girl watch the courtyard in complete silence, waiting anxiously to see who won the duel. As the dust settles, Noah appears standing with his glowing blade. While Skull falls defeated to his knees, Noah points his sword at his rival and calmly states that he has no intention of taking his brother's life. He demands his opponent's surrender, and Skull, hanging his head without any strength left, finally admits his total defeat. Skull declares that the mana core now belongs to the victor, and Noah decides to accept the result and lowers his guard. Suddenly, Noah senses a strange movement and opens his eyes in shock at a sudden threat. Faking his defeat, Skull flashes a crazed, treacherous grin as he strikes his brother by surprise through the opening in his defense. The villain lunges forward from his knees and drives his sword directly into Noah's chest, leaving the young man completely shocked. Damien and Eve watch the terrible scene of betrayal with wide eyes, filled with absolute shock and horror, blinded by rage. Skull screams at the top of his lungs, asking who in their right mind would ever surrender to Noah. He furiously adds that he would never accept seeing his brother stand above him in the family's power struggle. Noah lets out a deep groan of pain as he is pushed back by the blade, blood spilling from his chest. Eve screams Noah's name in desperation as she watches her brother get gravely wounded right before her eyes. Eve tries to run forward to help the young man, but Damien holds her back to keep her safe and away from the fight. Completely out of his mind, Skull leaps toward Noah with his sword raised high, screaming that everything ends right now. Even while gravely injured, Noah reacts instantly with a precise strike that slashes open Skull's chest, sending blood spraying Skull as thrown backward and crashes violently onto the ground, spitting up blood from Noah's decisive counter, lying on his back on the cold stone. Skull breathes with extreme difficulty, his eyes filled with pure denial at his downfall. Silence consumes the palace courtyard as both brothers lie motionless on the stone floor. Noah agonizes on the ground, thinking that members of the Daskul family truly prefer to perish rather than set aside their pride. The overhead view shows both lying side by side in pools of blood, marking the tragic and violent end of the brothers' duel. Desperate, Eve manages to break free and runs in tears toward Noah. While Damien watches the scene from a distance, Damien coldly warns that Noah's wound is fatal and that doctors won't arrive in time, but Eve decides to take matters into her own hands. The young girl kneels beside her wounded brother and begins focusing a strong, green magical aura around her hands. She places her hands on his chest and activates the first form of the shadow flower style to try and save his life. Eve extends her hand over Noah's chest and activates the Obero light technique of the shadow flower style, emitting a powerful green glow. The powerful healing magic acts quickly on Noah's wounds, magically sealing the deep cut he suffered within moments. Noah's body completely regenerates thanks to the incredible healing energy channeled by his sister Noah, slowly opens his purple eyes, coming back to his senses after being on the very brink of death in the palace courtyard. Noah stands up in surprise, and Eve explains that while she might be poor at direct combat, she can still use healing magic incredibly well. Grateful for his sister's help, Noah flashes a soft smile and thanks her for saving him. Before turning his attention to the defeated Noah, points to Skull's body and tells his sister that the true prize of this battle now belongs exclusively to her. A glowing red orb-shaped magic core begins to float right above the chest of the fallen Skull. Noah fixes his eyes on the mystical artifact, instantly recognizing it as Skull's powerful mana core. Our hero kneels beside the body to collect and absorb the energy contained within his late brother's core. Upon absorbing the item, Noah feels a massive surge of colorful electrical energy course through his entire body all at once. At that very moment, Noah's system screen activates once again to display his newly updated combat attributes. The panel reveals that his swordsmanship has reached level 9, and his mana core has jumped from 2 stars straight to 5. Noah is astonished to note that his core has grown 3 whole levels at once, an advancement that would normally take years of grueling training. The young man looks around in relief, realizing that the terrible and chaotic situation has finally been completely resolved. Noah's ally, Cease, comes walking calmly through the stone courtyard after the conclusion of the terrible clash. Cease remarks in surprise that he never imagined the youngest brother of the group would be capable of defeating the dangerous Skull in combat. Noah asks if Eve is all right, and the young girl replies that she is, explaining that Damien stepped in to save her when the danger escalated. Cease is surprised by their brother's action, but the imposing Damien merely replies coldly that he was simply following the rules of succession. Damien turns his back, carrying his large shield, and prepares to leave the area, considering the battle officially over. The others watch in silence as the strongest brother retreats from the courtyard. Deep in thought about everything he just witnessed, Damien mentally admits that the battle was quite interesting, leaving him curious to uncover the origin of that mysterious power. The Great Knight continues on his way far from them, making it clear he has other, more important duties to attend to. Shortly after, a gray-haired butler approaches Noah and informs him that the family head, Lord Victor, has summoned him. The scene cuts to Victor's imposing castle, the fortress where the supreme leader of the Daskul family resides. Noah presents himself in the Great Hall, where Lord Victor mentions he has heard rumors that the young man claimed Skull's core for himself. Victor stares intently at his son with a stern gaze and asks him directly if those rumors are indeed true. Noah calmly and firmly confirms that the information is real and that he emerged victorious from the succession battle. Victor asks how strong Skull seemed to be, and Noah replies that in swordsmanship and mana techniques, his brother was superior in every way. The father narrows his eyes intimidatingly, questioning how the young man was able to win despite being theoretically outmatched. Noah places his hand on his chest and states that his relentless drive for power is something he will never lose to anyone. pleased with the boy's resolve. Lord Victor flashes a slight smile of approval and praises his son's honest response. The leader states that Skull committed many unforgivable crimes and that he intends to reward Noah for putting an end to his actions. Victor tells the young man not to be shy and to choose his prize, and Noah requests to be sent to a specific training location. The father is quite surprised that he doesn't ask for riches or rare weapons. Questioning if his son truly lacks any greed, Noah maintains his firm stance and explains that he firmly believes this opportunity will yield far greater benefits in the future. Victor realizes this is all part of Noah's relentless pursuit of strength, granting the request and asking which location he has chosen. A horse-drawn carriage travels along a winding road surrounded by massive mountains shrouded in fog. Inside the transport, Eve asks if this journey is Victor's reward, and Noah confirms, stating they aren't there for a vacation. Noah shares a determined smile, saying he will leave daily affairs and the organization under the care of his female companions. The short-haired blonde maid responds with a confident smile, assuring him she will take care of everything necessary. Looking out the carriage window with great attention, Eve lets out a gasp of extreme surprise as she spots something quite excited. The young girl points outside and alerts her companions that they can already see their final destination. Noah looks out the window with a satisfied smile, thinking that they have finally arrived at the legendary city built by dragons and humans. The carriage rolls toward Draconia, the majestic dragon nest city located at the foot of a colossal mountain. The young man recalls that dragonoids highly value order, and that a violent conflict has been plaguing this region for several decades. Spotting the presence of armed dragonoid warriors, Noah realizes their rivals intend to interfere with the support his family was going to provide. Noah adopts a serious expression and directly orders Lydia and Serena to stay safely inside the carriage. Horned warriors with red fur appear and mock the situation, questioning if this kid is supposed to be the backup they were waiting for. The stocky red leader arrogantly warns that he doesn't want to waste time on weaklings, telling the young man to leave if he wants to live. Noah merely offers a slight, ironic smile and replies very calmly that he now understands the situation perfectly. Our hero releases his crackling aura of mana and says he will give the monster the exact same warning, ordering him to beat it if he wants to be spared. Completely furious at Noah's cheeky response, the enemy leader roars in hatred and prepares to charge with all his might. The red giant rushes fiercely toward Noah, screaming that he will break and crush every single one of his bones to pieces. The monstrous creature delivers a terrible and devastating stomp to the ground, making the entire earth shake beneath his feet. A massive cloud of dust and smoke rises in the courtyard after the violent strike, but Noah's brilliant aura remains entirely untouched. With extreme calm and focus, the young man unsheathes his glowing sword and assumes a flawless combat stance. The monster tries to crush Noah, bringing his massive red hands together in a devastating slam aimed directly at the boy. Showing quick reflexes and great agility, our hero takes a massive leap into the air, perfectly dodging the heavy onslaught. The beast's attack completely destroys the ground beneath Noah, carving a crater and scattering large rocks all over the place. Noah positions himself upside down in the air with his sword guarded, preparing to dive down with a swift counterattack. The red beast lets out a loud howl of pure rage as it realizes its agile opponent managed to completely avoid its crushing blow. The young man channels all of his brilliant energy and decides to execute the first form of the divine power style mid-fall. Noah unleashes the powerful flash of light and darkness strike, generating a swift, cutting trail of colorful energy. The red beast's glowing eyes widen in shock as it notices the staggering speed of Noah's approaching strike. Noah flies right past the opponent's side, precisely slashing the monster's massive arm with his sword. The impact generates a thunderous shockwave that slams the creature against the rocks on the ground with immense force. Noah lands gracefully in the courtyard, surrounded by his crackling aura, commenting that the move was nothing more than a brute attack. Noah coldly analyzes his defeated enemy, thinking that the monster's physical strength was impressive but far too reckless. The red giant grits his teeth in fury as he sees Noah approaching, calling him a fool for walking straight toward him. The monster throws a devastating right punch in an attempt to intercept Noah's aerial advance once and for all. Noah nimbly slips past the beast's colossal fist with mastery, positioning himself in a perfect opening right under its arm. With an extremely swift and precise motion, Noah executes a brilliant diagonal cut directly across the opponent's chest. The creature lets out a terrible scream of pain as a massive amount of blood sprays from its freshly slashed chest. Noah partially sheathes his weapon and coldly taunts the remaining enemies, telling them all to come at him together atop a nearby stone cliff. 4 other red beasts watch their allies' defeat with outrage. Growling and drooling in pure hatred, the creatures let out loud, wild howls as they prepare to charge at our hero. The 4 beasts leap together from the cliff toward Noah, with the clear intention of cornering and tearing him apart. Our hero concentrates a powerful, glowing golden light into his sword to execute the second form of the divine power style. Noah activates the Twin Heavens Rupture Strike, firing vertical beams of golden energy that hit all the monsters mid-air. The other 4 red monsters are struck simultaneously by Noah's technique, falling defeated and powerless to the ground. The Dragonoid guards watch everything in awe, commenting that the Daskul family's immense power is even greater than the rumors suggested. The maids step out of the carriage, praising the young man's fantastic combat, while Noah complains about them not staying inside. One of the girls shyly replies that observing her master's achievements is a servant's duty, leaving Noah quite flustered. Noah focuses his attention on the top of the gorge and shouts for the last creature to come down and face him once and for all. A winged creature resembling a dragon flies high through the skies, drawing the attention of the group watching from below. Suddenly, an imposing warrior clad in golden armor leaps from the winged beast and begins diving down at high speed. The Dragonoid warrior lands with extreme force right in front of Noah, kicking up a massive cloud of dust from the impact. The newcomer stares intently at Noah from up close and respectfully comments that he clearly witnessed all of the young man's power. He formally introduces himself as Adalbalt Fangray, the captain of the fearless Dragon Knights of Draconia. Noah questions why he didn't fight, and Adalbalt explains that his king would never trust matters to anyone who is too weak. Noah gives a subtle smirk and confidently asks if that performance was enough to pass his test. Adalbalt confirms immediately and announces that from this moment on, he will guide the group directly to the presence of Lord Arcados. Noah's carriage travels through the city streets, now formally escorted by a troop of Dragonoid mounts. Looking out the window, the maid is filled with wonder and gasps in surprise at the sight of Dragonoids and humans living peacefully together on the streets. The other young girl agrees, commenting that it is indeed very rare to find a kingdom where such different races can coexist. The escort friendly suggests they explore the beautiful city later, eliciting a highly enthusiastic response from the girls. A massive, bluish dragon silently observes the group's arrival from the top of a colossal mountain that dominates the landscape. Adalbalt lights a lantern and begins guiding the visitors through a long, dark stone pathway inside the cavern. They arrive before a colossal, ancient stone door adorned with an imposing dragon carving at the center of its structure. Adalbalt positions himself before the entrance and loudly announces that he has brought their guest, Lord Noah Daskul, as planned. The eyes of the stone carving begin to glow intensely as an imposing voice echoes, ordering them to enter. The heavy stone gates slowly slide open, allowing Adalbalt to lead Noah's group inside the mysterious hall. As soon as he steps past the threshold, Noah feels an overwhelming pressure in the air, thinking this energy is equal to, or perhaps even greater than his father's. The guards drop to their knees under the immense spiritual pressure, while the maids shrink back in fear behind Noah. At the end of the mysterious dark corridor, a gigantic pair of glowing blue eyes emerges from the thick spiritual smoke. The powerful creature welcomes the group, prompting Noah to face the darkness of the hall in a calm and fearless manner. The imposing white and golden Dragon King fully reveals himself before them, greeting the young man as his newest little ally. The maids and guards begin to break out in a cold sweat from sheer nervousness. In the colossal, dominating presence of the legendary creature, Noah formally introduces himself as Noah Daskul and states he has come here under the direct orders of his respected father. Victor Lord Arcados generously thanks him for the arrival of one of the family's successors, highly valuing this important visit. The gigantic dragon brings his massive blue eye close to Noah, mysteriously noting that he senses a very familiar energy within him. Noah flashes a subtle smile and praises the Dragon King's sharp perception, acknowledging his wisdom accumulated since ancient times. The young man decides to release his full, magnificent, glowing purple and yellow aura to demonstrate his true power, before Arcados watches in absolute silence as the immense spiritual power radiates from the young warrior right in front of him. The imposing Dragon King focuses his glowing gaze on Noah's energy, thinking how wonderful it is to behold that brilliance once more, highly satisfied with the young man. Arcados orders his captain Adalbalt to reveal and explain all the details of the mission to their young ally. Adalbalt steps toward Noah, preparing to explain in detail the terms of the request for help made to the Daskul family. The captain explains that his people have been waging a bloody, endless war against the violent warriors of the Oni tribe for many years. He adds, pointing to an old tactical map, that unfortunately, the balance of power between the two forces has recently shifted. Adalbalt points out on the map that the Oni tribe has acquired a brilliant strategist, breaking the stalemate and dealing defeats to the Dragonoids. Noah asks if their request is to turn the tide of the war, but the imposing Dragon King warns that the request goes far beyond that. With firm resolve, Captain Adalbalt drives his dagger into the center of the war map to emphasize the absolute seriousness of the situation. Adalbalt tells Noah with determination that their true desire is for the young man to put a definitive end to this endless war. He looks on with deep melancholy, explaining that this great goal must be accomplished before their king reaches the end of his life. The mission must be completed urgently before Lord Arcados reaches the end of his remaining time in this world. Noah silently observes the dragon, realizing with concern that the legendary creature indeed does not have much time left. He remembers the immense power that will manifest after the Dragon King's passing, a highly rare artifact known as the Core of Arcados. Noah recalls that in his previous life, this power fell into the wrong hands and caused utter destruction, which is his primary reason for being here. With complete conviction, Noah places his hand on his chest and solemnly swears that he will personally fulfill this difficult and important mission. Arcados thanks the young sword of the Daskuls, promising that as a generous reward, he will hand over his own materials after his passing. Adalbalt assures him they will provide all the necessary support for the mission, and reveals a troubling piece of news regarding the enemy forces he shares, that the Oni tribe has supposedly managed to acquire the Jewel of the Eight Treasures, an extremely dangerous, mystical artifact. Noah listens to the revelation with extreme gravity, knowing that things have just gotten much more difficult than he anticipated. Noah knows that the Jewel of the Eight Treasures is a tool directly linked to the military power of an entire nation, which is highly problematic. The young man reassures them he will look into the matter, thinking that perhaps his sister Eve might have some useful information regarding this artifact. Walking through the streets, Noah reflects that the conflict will escalate into a race war, and there are limits to how much he can handle on his own. Noah flashes a subtle smile, realizing he will have to invite an old acquaintance to join his party once again. The young man walks through the bustling central square of the city, searching for the person he needs to recruit for the perilous mission. Noah is relieved to find the mysterious girl in the cloak and hat surprisingly easily right in the middle of the square. He recalls that in his previous life, she was a highly respected 9-star saint who saved his life countless times with her healing. Now another woman has appeared, yet still no sign of my ultimate waifu, Aerith. Unfortunately, in the past timeline, she ended up tragically losing her life while fighting against the terrible invaders. The young man approaches from behind, reflecting that he never imagined they would reunite in this manner in his current existence. Noticing Noah's presence, the girl turns around flustered, politely asking him not to stare at her so intently. She places her hands on her hips and mockingly warns him that her next musical performance won't be starting for quite a while. Noah is left confused by her response, and she asks in surprise if he hadn't come all this way just to hear her sing. Intrigued by the fact that the former saint is now a singer, Noah apologizes and politely asks for her name. Without hesitation, she picks up her stringed musical instrument to demonstrate her true trade to the young man. With a cheerful smile, she introduces herself as Liliana, a simple bard traveling the world to perform her beautiful songs. Noah is shocked to see that the legendary saint is pretending to be a common bard to conceal her true and powerful identity. The panel displays the name Liliana Seraphine with excellent skills, confirming that her power remains more than sufficient. Adopting a firm stance, Noah calls Liliana by her name and seriously tells her that he needs to speak with her urgently. Liliana listens and says she understands, admitting she had no idea the conflict between the Dragonoids and the Oni tribe had become so severe. However, she firmly crosses her arms and warns him with a serious look that she unfortunately cannot help him in any way. Surprised by the immediate refusal, Noah looks at the young bard and calmly asks if he could know the reason behind her decision. With her eyes glowing intensely, Liliana coldly reveals that she can sense a demonic energy radiating from the young man. A dark, purplish aura begins to circulate around Noah, revealing the presence of the dark power hidden within him. Noah raises his open hand and with a calm smile asks how she likes seeing his other, hidden source of magical power. Liliana is extremely surprised to see an orb of holy light blend perfectly with Noah's dark energy. Astonished, she says she understands the situation and agrees to help, but imposes a single important condition before joining the party. Liliana smiles with an ulterior motive, asking him to prepare a partner who can sleep with her. Noah is left completely shocked by the girl's unusual request. Reacting in utter confusion, she begins fantasizing about a strong, gentlemanly man, but warns that she rejects anyone with demonic power. Look at her strange talk. I already like her. Noah thinks to himself that she is still the same romantic person from his previous life, and that this side of her started quite early this time around. He accepts the condition, thinking of a perfect candidate who can literally lend his body to her. Just ask me. My body is all hers. Liliana shyly extends her hand, stating that she will be under his care from now on. The young man shakes her hand with a friendly smile, finally introducing himself as Noah Das Cool. The scene shifts to the mountainous region of Draconia, where large flying creatures soar across the city sky. Liliana asks what they are doing there, and Noah explains that they need to bolster their strength for the upcoming battle. Noah recalls that an old companion mentioned a sacred magical artifact resting within the sanctuary of that mountain. The two arrive before a massive cavern blocked by large rocks and ancient ruins. The young man concentrates intensely as a powerful golden energy begins to circulate around him. A massive magical light activates on sight to clear a path through the rubble, blocking the entrance. With swift movements, Noah draws his sword, which is wrapped in an intense aura of purple and yellow energy. He delivers a powerful strike against the blockage to clear the passage into the cavern's interior. The purple mist slowly dissipates, revealing the secret entrance fully open for them to explore. Suddenly, a loud and chilling roar echoes directly from the deep darkness of the cavern. Liliana senses the danger in the air and apprehensively comments that it sounds like a warning from an extremely dangerous creature. Noah asks with a smirk if she is scared, but the girl immediately fires back, saying of course she isn't. The two walk cautiously into the mysterious place, which glows with a beautiful, intense bluish light. The young man leads the way, wielding his sword and remaining on high alert for any threat that might emerge. Noah notices a strange movement approaching and warns that something very fast is heading their way. Three fierce, reptile-like monsters emerge from the cavern shadows and surround the duo wielding her book. Liliana prepares for battle, telling Noah to leave the support to her. One of the monsters lunges fiercely toward the young warrior. Sharp claws ready to strike, Noah calmly prepares for direct combat, raising his sword as it glows with magical power. With swift and precise strikes of his blade, the young man easily cuts down the monsters attempting to attack him. The terrible creatures are thrown backward by the devastating force of Noah's counterattack. He flashes a confident smile, asserting that he can easily handle the situation on his own. Liliana watches the young man's display of skill and is highly impressed by just how strong he is. However, a giant tail suddenly sweeps from behind them, indicating that an even greater threat is still active. Noah senses the imminent danger and desperately shouts Liliana's name to warn her of the surprise attack. A colossal monster with sharp teeth lunges at high speed toward the defenseless young bard. With extreme agility, she leaps backward, perfectly dodging the creature's violent snap mid-air. Liliana shouts with determination and delivers a powerful downward kick against the opponent. The impact of the girl's attack is so strong that it slams the monster directly against the cavern's stone floor. She calmly adjusts her outfit and informs a highly impressed Noah that she also knows very well how to protect herself. Liliana remarks that she has never seen monsters of this type before, and Noah explains that the cavern concentrates the energy of the dragon clan. Under the constant influence of this immense mystical power, the creatures in this region undergo unique mutations and evolutions. He adds that if these monsters are left unchecked, they can easily transform into disaster-class beasts. Liliana comments that she had no idea the place was so dangerous, but Noah reassures her that magical tools were placed here to disperse the dragon's power. Curious, the young girl asks if one of those magical tools is the reason they came here, and Noah confirms Liliana questions why they would need it if their enemies are from the Oni tribe, and Noah responds that it is to prepare for the absolute worst. The young warrior guides the girl, warning her that this is already the deepest and most dangerous part of the cavern. Liliana observes the surrounding environment very carefully, trying to find any useful clues. Suddenly, she spots a sword driven into a rock and points excitedly, saying that must be it. Seeing the girl reach out her arm to touch the artifact, Noah immediately shouts for her to wait. A strange and powerful vibration begins to shake the entire structure of the cavern, raising the tension. Noah's eyes widen as he realizes an extremely dangerous presence has awakened right in front of them. He screams for her to watch out and rushes forward quickly to pull her out of harm's way. Noah pulls Liliana into his arms just in time as a colossal beast emerges, destroying the stone floor. A massive dragon with purple crystals on its back reveals itself, roaring fiercely before the two invaders. With falling rocks all around, Noah realizes the exit has been blocked, leaving Liliana highly concerned. The terrible dragon opens its gigantic maw, beginning to gather a massive amount of destructive fire. Noah draws his sword and laments the situation, realizing they have nowhere to run from that devastating attack. With determination, Liliana opens her spellbook and begins conjuring a sealing magic to protect them. She activates her holy barrier at the exact moment the monster fires an overwhelming blast of flames at them. The dragon's fiery breath strikes the area head-on, engulfing everything in a sea of burning flames. The honeycomb-patterned magical barrier glows intensely, successfully withstanding the immense pressure of the heat. Liliana keeps her defense firm with her protective magic, and Noah praises his ally's excellent work. The monster lunges physically against the barrier, but Noah leaps toward it, enveloped in purple energy. Mid-air, the young man delivers a powerful diagonal cut against the giant creature attempting to attack them. Noah's strike is precise, successfully slicing through the dragon's thick hide and sending the beast's blood spraying. Feeling the pain of the deep wound, the monster roars even more furiously at the attack it just suffered. The massive beast counters with its heavy tail, and Noah quickly evades while coordinating their next move. Liliana begins to tire from the effort, warning that at this rate of destruction, the entire cavern will collapse. Wasting no time, she focuses her mana and conjures a new binding magic to try and immobilize their opponent. Using her Holy Pillar skill, Liliana summons glowing golden chains that burst directly from the ground. The magical chains wrap around the giant dragon with force, managing to temporarily bind it to the ground. Liliana warns that the cavern will cave in if the fight drags on, desperately begging him to hurry. Noah decides to focus all of his power into a concentrated area to defeat the beast quickly, without causing the place to collapse. He gathers a massive amount of magical energy into his blade to deliver the finishing blow. Noah charges at high speed toward the bound monster, preparing to use the first form of the Shinwi style. The young man channels the powerful flash of light and darkness into his sword, generating a devastating multicolored glow. He leaps toward the dragon, which desperately tries to fire more flames despite being chained down. Noah lets out a determined battle cry, bringing his holy blade down with all his might against the target. The impact of the charged strike cuts through the dragon's fiery onslaught, hitting the creature's head directly. A massive explosion of concentrated energy surges through the monster's body, completely shattering its resistance. The giant dragon falls defeated and gravely wounded onto the cavern floor after receiving the final blow. Noah asks if Liliana is all right, and she replies that she is, but warns that the collapse is dangerous, and they need to run. Noah and Liliana sprint to escape the imminent danger, while the young man quickly snatches the mysterious sword from the ground. He firmly grips the hilt of the holy sword before the entire place begins to cave in completely. Liliana asks if that is the magical tool that disperses the dragon's power, known as the Dragon Ring Sword. Noah confirms that it is indeed that special weapon, telling her they must leave this place immediately. The scene cuts to the skies of Draconia, with riders mounted on dragons patrolling the entire region. Back in the city, Noah hands a document to Liliana, who asks in confusion if it is a letter. He explains that it is a letter of recommendation for Commander Adalbalt, telling her to present herself at the guardhouse. Liliana holds the envelope with extreme joy, thanking the young man immensely for his help. She bids him farewell, stating she will set off right away, while Noah waves back with a smile. Later, Noah walks through the city streets, heading toward the entrance of a local tavern. He enters the establishment and walks toward the counter under the watchful eyes of a few patrons. The tavern keeper draws Noah's attention, warmly letting him know that a visitor is waiting for him. The young warrior is quite surprised to hear that someone was looking for him there. Noah recognizes the visitor, realizing it is his brother Cease, who greets him calmly from across the room. He approaches, sits at the table, and curiously asks what his brother is doing in this place. Cease holds out a sealed envelope, telling Noah to read its contents, as it will explain the entire situation. The letter contains information from his sister Eve, revealing that she has investigated the mystery of the Jewel of the 8 Treasures. While Cease yawns from exhaustion, Noah reads that one of the treasures was indeed stolen from a neighboring country. The report states that the thief is a wanted criminal named Fungus, and that he fled with the artifact toward Draconia. In the letter, Eve seriously warns that Noah needs to be extremely careful when dealing with this dangerous threat. She warns that the magic sealed within that mystical treasure is powerful enough to wipe out an entire city. Noah recalls the devastating forbidden magic known as Starfall, which causes mass destruction. He mutters the name of the terrible magic while Cease remains relaxed in his chair, listening to the conversation. The young man reflects with concern that this was the exact magic that destroyed Draconia in his past life. At the end of the letter, Eve mentions she will send Sis to help him, asking him to return from the mission alive. Noah realizes Sis will be coming as backup, and Cease comments that it's a good deal to secure more military strength. Cease smiles, saying it's a great arrangement, and Noah happily agrees that any help is highly welcome. Suddenly, Liliana comes running into the tavern, shouting Noah's name, accompanied by Commander Adelbalt. She storms toward the young man, loudly complaining that this was not what they had agreed upon. Slamming her hands on the table, the bard complains that Adelbalt has a wife and children, stating she does not get involved with married men. The surrounding patrons in the tavern are shocked. Beginning to gossip about the embarrassing commotion, Noah realizes the misunderstanding. Remembering that he had indeed introduced the girl to the commander, without thinking, Adelbalt becomes flustered, saying he forgot he was married, while Liliana complains that unfaithfulness is just too much. Noah apologizes for the mistake, promising he will find someone else suitable for her instead. Suddenly, Liliana looks to the side, spots Cease, and her eyes instantly turn into glowing hearts. Cease notices the girl's intense gaze directed at him, reacting in total confusion, not understanding what is happening. With a love-struck smile, Liliana slyly approaches and immediately clings to the young blonde man's arm. She embraces him affectionately, thinking out loud that he is exactly her ideal type and has a body in incredible shape. Startled by the sudden approach, Cease tries to pull away while desperately asking who this crazy woman is. Noah explains to Adelbalt that she is an ally and that he had promised to find a suitor for the girl Liliana holds. Cease's hands affectionately, leaving the young man completely embarrassed by her sudden closeness. With her eyes shining with passion, she asks him directly if he wouldn't like to spend the night with her just once. Flushing red with embarrassment, Cease immediately pushes her away and yells, calling her foolish for saying such absurd things in public. The young blonde man screams, begging Noah to make her shut up, but his brother merely smiles and tells her to do whatever she wants with Cease. Liliana is overjoyed while Noah gives a thumbs up, considering his promise fulfilled, much to Cease's absolute despair. The warrior desperately tries to push the bard away from him, screaming for her to let go of him once and for all, ignoring the young man's protests. Liliana nuzzles her face against his arm and sweetly says she will be under his care. Cease shouts that he did not agree to absolutely any of this, quickly backing away to escape the girl. With an impressive leap, the young man flees the scene, jumping out of the tavern to avoid getting caught by the smitten bard. Liliana lets out a sigh of deep disappointment upon seeing her suitor run away, while Noah watches the entire scene calmly. Cease mentions he is going to meet with the Dragon King to personally report all of Eve's important findings. Noah understands his brother's decision, replying that in the meantime, he will do everything in his power to help before departing. Cease looks at the young man with extreme gravity, firmly warning him not to push himself too far. He reminds him that the Oni King is an extremely powerful monster, whose strength is equal to that of their father, Victor. The young blonde man runs off into the distance, with Liliana hot on his heels, loudly begging him to wait. Noah acts quickly, firmly grabbing the bard by the collar of her cloak to stop her from continuing the pursuit. He apologizes to his companion, seriously warning her that they unfortunately have no time to waste chasing after Cease. The scene shifts to the borders of the perilous fortress belonging to the feared Oni tribe, where the duo prepares to infiltrate facing the massive enemy fortress. Liliana asks apprehensively if Noah truly plans to attack this entire place with just the two of them. The young warrior explains that their sole objective is to destroy the Jewel of the 8 Treasures and that he has no intention of starting a war. Liliana listens to her companion's words with concern, knowing that this mission is still extremely risky. She observes the canyon and asks how they will manage to slip past all those Oni guards on watch. Noah picks her up in his arms by surprise and, with a confident smile, remarks that the warriors of the Oni tribe are very slow. He activates his magical energy, concentrating it entirely into his boots to gain a drastic boost in speed. Noah assures her they will simply run straight past all the guards, leaping toward the enemy fortress. Moving like a true bolt of light, the young man flies past the enemies, giving none of them any time to react. He dashes across the village's suspended wooden bridges with such absurd speed that he leaves only a trail of yellow energy behind. One of the Oni tribe sentries spots a bright flash passing in the distance, left puzzled by what he just saw. Another guard is startled upon sensing a presence passing by his side at high speed, trying to figure out what is going on. Noah attacks one of the guards by surprise with a swift blow, knocking the enemy to the ground before he can yell for help. The companion of the knocked-out guard is completely shocked to see his ally suddenly down right in front of him. He tries to scream to alert others of an enemy attack, but Noah quickly appears and strikes him down before the sound can spread. Noah comments that they ended up being spotted, but Liliana smiles calmly and tells him not to worry about it. The bard reveals she has already activated a powerful acoustic isolation barrier around them to muffle any sound of battle. Impressed by the great utility of his companion's skill, Noah praises her as they keep pushing forward. Due to the absolute silence caused by the sound barrier, the other guards in the fortress notice nothing unusual. Liliana looks at him intently, asking if he knows exactly where the relics of the Oni tribe are kept. Noah explains they should be in the deepest part of the fortress, likely where the tribe's chief is located. The young man reflects that in his past life, Fungus was a cowardly opportunist who always allied with whoever was strongest. He concludes that if Fungus is involved in the matter, the valuable treasures will certainly be hidden in that very same place Noah and Liliana arrive safely, and the young warrior carefully sets the girl down from his arms. Before a frightening door adorned with a giant skull, Liliana comments that the village security was tight, but they managed to slip through. With great caution, the two slowly push open the heavy wooden door and peer inside to see what is there. Noah tells her to head inside, and the two stealthily enter the mysterious inner chamber. They run quickly through the ancient hall, which is surrounded by lit torches and shattered stone pillars. Upon spotting a glowing pink sphere on the altar, the young man excitedly exclaims that he has finally found the treasure. However, Noah senses a sudden presence and turns around startled, putting Liliana on high alert. He wonders if the enemy was right behind him as he attempts to dodge a swift, invisible strike. To the young man's surprise, there is no one there. Though he clearly felt a hostile energy nearby, Noah realizes Fungus was right, wondering how the enemy moved so quickly in the millisecond he turned around. A massive red hand snatches the glowing jewel, and an imposing voice remarks that it is surprising for someone to come after this treasure. The massive General Geisel emerges from the shadows, praising their splendid ability to bypass the village's entire security. Noah activates his purplish magical aura. Knowing this opponent will be extremely difficult, but that they must retrieve the jewel, Geisel delivers an intimidating warning, stating he has no appreciation for cheap tricks as he prepares for combat. Liliana opens her spellbook, ready to fight, while Noah assumes his battle stance with his sword drawn. The general of the Oni tribe roars, saying he will crush these insolent brats who dared to invade his territory, acting quickly. Noah uses his special appraisal skill to analyze the terrifying opponent's power level. The system screen begins loading the status information under the name of the fearsome General Geisel. Noah tenses up as he reads the system's result, revealing that the enemy's physical power level is immeasurable. Sensing the massive danger, the young man decides they must destroy the jewel immediately and retreat as soon as possible. Noah charges at high speed toward the monster, delivering a sword strike charged with magical energy. The young man grits his teeth as he feels the violent impact of his blade clashing against the enemy's rigid body. The sword doesn't even scratch the monster, and Geisel mocks him, saying his attack lacks weight and that he is nothing but an insect. The general adds that he is far too fragile, delivering an extremely violent kick that sends him flying backward. Noah is thrown back by the overwhelming impact, doing everything he can to regain his balance mid-air. Without giving him room to breathe, Geisel points his finger and fires a concentrated blast of red energy at the young man. The general's attack directly strikes the cavern wall, triggering a thunderous explosion and a thick cloud of smoke. Noah falls to his knees on the ground beneath a shower of debris and dust kicked up by the force of the impact. Large chunks of rock collapse all around as the young man attempts to quickly recover from that sequence of attacks. Geisel leaps, wielding a colossal stone club, and shouts that a true weapon should be imposing like this. The monster swings his heavy club down with everything he has, but Noah manages to raise a golden protective barrier just in time to block it. Liliana observes the tense situation from afar, preparing her support magic with her book open to assist her companion. Geisel finds the block amusing, enthusiastically commenting that he loves a good, head-on contest of brute strength. The general tightens his grip on the hilt of his massive stone weapon to pour all of his physical strength into the attack. The monster presses his club against the golden magic shield, trying in every way to crush Noah. Seeing the immense pressure the young man is under, Liliana desperately calls out to him while focusing her magic. Noah's golden energy barrier begins to crack and split under the overwhelming force exerted by the general. The protective shield finally shatters completely, triggering a loud explosion of light and smoke in the area. A thick curtain of dust covers both warriors as the clash of forces violently shakes the cavern. Geisel widens his eyes in extreme surprise, asking how the young man was able to stop his devastating attack. Noah nimbly evades Geisel's devastating strike, slipping right past the massive stone club. The young man backs away to catch his breath, and Liliana asks with concern if he is truly all right. Noah replies that he is, but mentally notes with dread the absurd destructive power the enemy possesses using only one hand. Noah analyzes the situation, concluding they stand absolutely no chance of victory if they continue to fight directly. He looks at the broken fragments of the altar's barrier and decides to bet all his chips on this single opportunity. Noah calls out to Liliana, telling her to work together with him. Receiving a confident nod from the bard in response, Liliana raises her magical conjuration book and summons judgment, unleashing a rain of luminous projectiles. She conjures her spears of light against the general, while Noah takes advantage of the distraction to charge at high speed. Geisel flashes a confident, arrogant smile, mocking that a weak attack of that caliber would never be able to defeat him with a single violent swing of his stone club. The general easily bats away all of Liliana's spears of light. Liliana is completely shocked and horrified to see her powerful light magic undone so easily. Far from there, a mysterious masked warrior observes the entire combat situation, muttering that this is already enough. Noah begins concentrating his divine energy into the hilt of his broken sword, activating the techniques of the Shinwi style. The young man channels the flying blade of the Demon Saint technique to unleash a powerful binding attack. Noah coldly warns the general that he has nowhere left to run, activating his pillars of cutting energy. He traps the giant general using the Twin Heavens rupture, generating massive pillars of golden light that surround the enemy. Geisel finds himself completely immobilized by the overwhelming force of that powerful Shinwi-style technique. Noah takes advantage of his opponent's immobilization, quickly running toward the altar where the mystical jewel is kept. The young warrior propels himself with full force, preparing a decisive blow to shatter the Oni tribe's valuable treasure. Noah channels all of his remaining power into a beam of golden light directed straight at the glowing sphere. After firing the concentrated beam, the young man slides across the stone floor to escape the general's reach. He points his finger toward the target, channeling his spiritual energy to force the destruction of the mystical jewel. Noah concentrates the entire power of his golden luminous beam to strike the jewel with pinpoint accuracy. With gritted teeth, the young man shouts for the artifact to shatter once and for all under the pressure of his strike. The beam strikes the center of the pink sphere with full force, generating massive cracks in its glowing structure. The jewel of the 8 treasures finally shatters completely. Releasing a violent and destructive discharge of electrical energy, Geisel watches in shock and fury as the valuable mystical treasure is destroyed, while the cavern begins to shake. The general grits his teeth in pure rage, while Noah maintains a firm and focused gaze despite his physical exhaustion. The destruction of the artifact triggers an overwhelming explosion of golden energy that sweeps through the entire fortress interior. The shockwave spreads violently through the Oni tribe's village, throwing several guards far away. Noah and Liliana are protected from the massive mystical explosion by the honeycomb-patterned holy ring barrier Liliana celebrates, saying they finally did it, but Noah seriously warns her not to lower her guard just yet. Suddenly, Geisel's wicked laughter echoes through the smoke, revealing that he is still standing and active. The general emerges from the ashes, leaning on his stone club, and mockingly says that was merely an entertaining little trick. Several Oni warriors emerge from the shadows, surrounding the cornered duo of invaders. Noah grits his teeth with concern upon seeing they are surrounded by enemies and that their escape options have run out. A majestic dragon appears flying high above them, and Noah smiles in relief, instantly recognizing the allied technique. Cease appears, leaping from the dragon by surprise and extending his hand to channel electricity to cover the two. Noah quickly picks Liliana up in his arms, shouting for them to leave immediately while taking advantage of the opening. The duo escapes at high speed, enveloped in a brilliant purplish aura, leaving the Oni warriors behind in the smoke. Noah looks back while fleeing on the dragon, reflecting very seriously on the combat situation. Meanwhile, Geisel flashes a wicked, victorious smile as he holds the completely cracked mystical jewel in his hand. The young man knows very well that, although the Oni general retrieved the artifact, it is now completely unstable. The duo quickly retreats, flying through the skies aboard the allied dragon to return safely to their base back at the palace. The dragonoids are surprised that they survived the clash with Geisel, asking what happened to the jewel. Noah explains they delivered a decisive blow that caused the artifact's power to go out of control, limiting its use to only a few times. Hearing the young man's detailed account, Cease comments in relief that their situation has improved considerably. Suddenly, the door to the Great Hall is thrown open, and a guard comes running in desperately to deliver an urgent report. The messenger reports that the Oni tribe has mobilized their entire army and has already advanced to the border, leaving Adalbalt in shock. Noah remains calm, commenting that this is all part of the plan, as the enemy wants to decide the war before the jewel breaks for good. He adds that the decisive battle will finally take place while the Dragon King is still alive. Facing the entire allied army, Noah takes the lead and determinedly declares that he will put a definitive end to this war. On the other side of the border, General Geisel roars furiously, leading a massive host of bloodthirsty Oni warriors. The epic clash finally begins, with dragons dominating the skies while the ground forces collide fiercely. The two massive armies face each other in a chaotic and violent battle on the vast border battlefield. To support the allied troops, Liliana opens her book and conjures her powerful stat-boosting magic called Blessing Power. She activates Holy War Inspiration, wrapping all the Dragonoid warriors in a brilliant and invigorating golden aura. Strengthened by the bard's powerful support magic, the Dragonoid soldiers feel their physical strength increase drastically. With the combat buff active, the allied troops charge with everything and begin easily overwhelming Geisel's Oni warriors. Noah and Cease ride their horses across the battlefield, carving a path through the chaos of the clash. Cease shouts that he will clear a safe passage through the enemy lines, and Noah immediately agrees to the plan. Noah thinks to himself that they urgently need to locate Geisel and that schemer Fungus, who is still hiding in the shadows. Cease smiles confidently and activates a large blue magic circle, promising to put on a highly flashy show. The young blonde man conjures Earth Spike, causing massive stone pillars to erupt from the ground, launching enemies into the air. He activates the 8th form of the Shadow Thunder style, wrapping his own body in a destructive lightning shroud. Cease displays an extremely confident expression, knowing his electrical power is at its absolute maximum for the fight. The warrior charges like a bolt of blue lightning on his horse, electrocuting and clearing a path through the Oni tribe forces. The electrical discharges fired by Cease strike the Oni soldiers head-on, completely breaking their defensive line. With a determined shout, the young man orders everything around him to detonate to finish clearing the area. A gigantic explosion of blue lightning consumes the enemy patrol, completely clearing the path ahead. Several warriors of the Oni tribe fall completely defeated and scorched to the ground after Cease's powerful charge. Noah takes advantage of the opening created by his brother, galloping on his horse toward the enemy commander. The Dragonoid captain raises his spear and orders the entire allied army to charge as well to provide cover, inspired by Noah's charge. The Dragonoid soldiers march with determination and clash with the Onis once more. Upon noticing Noah's approach, the Oni warriors shout, ordering everyone to focus their attacks on the intruding human. The young man fixes his serious gaze on one of the enemy leaders, instantly realizing he is the commander of that unit. Noah moves with agility on his horse, executing rapid slashes with his magical sword, eliminating the opponents in his way with an acrobatic leap from his mount. The young warrior lunges directly downward against the Oni commander. He raises his sword with both hands mid-air, ready to deliver a fatal strike and take down the enemy leader. Noah's blade collides violently against the Oni commander's weapon, generating massive sparks at the moment of impact. Noah blocks the counterattack and delivers a precise, swift, upward slash against the Oni leader. He grits his teeth, realizing the opponent is quite resilient and that he will need to use more strength to defeat him. Several enemy soldiers run toward the young man, desperately shouting that it is a surprise attack. A massive Oni warrior charges, wielding his club, and roars, asking what a mere human thinks he can do against him. The enemy swings his club down in anger while Noah evades masterfully, commenting that he is the perfect target to test his new technique. Noah analyzes the system's skill list and prepares to activate the third form of the Shinwi style. The young man channels the explosive crush of the demon saint, striking the Oni warrior's chest directly with pure golden energy. The tip of the broken sword penetrates the opponent's body, discharging a violent wave of yellow lightning. Noah maintains the pressure of the blade, while the destructive power of his holy magic completely consumes the opponent. The young man coldly turns his back on the adversary, calmly commenting that their fight is over. The massive Oni warrior feels his own body burn from the inside out, under the effect of Noah's destructive magic. The enemy lets out a final roar of agony at the exact moment his body explodes into dozens of beams of golden light. A massive explosion of divine energy devastates the area, obliterating the Oni captain before his entire army. Noah remains standing at the center of the impact, enveloped in smoke and the glowing remnants of his immense spiritual power. The surviving Oni soldiers fall into utter panic, horrifiedly exclaiming that their captain was defeated in an instant by a monster. The young man places his fingers in his mouth and lets out a loud whistle to reorganize his forces' strategy on the battlefield. He quickly mounts his horse and dashes swiftly through the land combat lines of the border. Raising the head of the defeated commander, Noah shouts to the entire allied army that the enemy leader has finally been eliminated. Motivated by the young man's victory, the Dragonoid troops charge with everything they have, beginning to corner the retreating Oni tribe forces. Noah observes the stampede and suspects that something is highly wrong, wondering if the Oni army could truly be this weak. He rides his mount at high speed through the devastated landscape to grasp the opponent's true strategy. Along the way, the young man eliminates fleeing Honest with swift slashes of his magical sword. Clearing the area, Noah stops atop a stone hill, silently observing the unfolding battles around him. His eyes widen as he realizes the terrible truth that this entire army was merely bait to distract them. The young man notices that General Geisel is also nowhere to be found. Concluding that their true target is another strategic point, he looks toward the horizon, realizing in horror that the enemies are marching directly to invade Draconia. Noah laments that the only land route to reach the city of Draconia is by crossing that vast battlefield. He decides that if there is no clear path, he will force open a passage himself by any means necessary. The young man knows that the schemer Fungus is completely capable of coming up with a treacherous and cowardly plan like that. The scene shifts to Draconia, which is already under a violent surprise attack and consumed by massive fires on all sides. The Dragonoid sentries fall into despair, seeing that the Onus used the power of the jewel to shatter the mountain defenses. The criminal Fungus of Valkia flashes a smug smile upon hearing praise regarding his brilliant combat strategy. A giant Oni warrior mercilessly crushes the Dragonoid defenders attempting to protect the city. The monster delivers brutal punches to the wounded soldiers as the invasion forces advance without meeting resistance. Several Dragonoid protectors fall defeated and gravely wounded along the destroyed streets of Draconia. Fungus walks calmly toward the main palace while mocking the weakness of the allied defenses. With a simple snap of Fungus's fingers, a violent explosion of purple magic is triggered on sight. One of the defending dragons is struck head-on by the fire spell. Crashing down as it roars in pain amid the destructive flames, Fungus coldly comments that trash should be burned, while Geisel advises him to conserve mana for the real clash. The criminal smiles wickedly before the main gates, warning that the decisive battle is about to begin. Geisel invades the area, smashing everything in his path with his brutal strength. Fungus says that the time has now come to settle this situation once and for all. The imposing Dragon King, Lord Arcados, appears before them for the confrontation. Arcados declares they will pay with 10,000 demises for the crimes committed against his children. Facing the threat, Fungus and Geisel merely offer mocking, wicked smiles. Geisel prepares to fight as a massive surge of energy begins to circulate through the area. The dragon's golden aura clashes intensely with Geisel's destructive red power. Geisel shouts excitedly for them to go all out against their powerful opponent. The Oni general swiftly charges through the air toward the gigantic white dragon. A strong explosion of golden energy occurs at the moment. The two clash. Arcados is quite surprised by his opponent's impressive resilience. Geisel resists the golden attack, emerging with a smile, stone club in hand. The terrible warrior mocks the dragon, asking if that strike was all he had. Geisel delivers an extremely violent blow directly to Arcados' head. The impact is so strong that it sends the legendary Dragon King crashing straight to the ground. Arcados quickly recovers and takes flight high into the skies once more, crackling with electricity. He channels his magical energy, concentrating powerful lightning into his sharp claws. Geisel and his subordinates run as massive rocks begin to plummet all around them. A massive barrier of smoke and fire consumes the battlefield following the dragon's attack. Several Oni warriors end up falling along with the stone debris plunging from the sky. Arcados uses his immense power to crush the rocks in a terrifying vortex of energy. The Dragon King prepares yet another concentrated attack with his brilliant golden magic. A massive orb of pure golden light explodes in the sky, illuminating the entire region. The energy then condenses into a perfect spherical barrier in midair. However, cracks begin to rapidly appear on the surface of the glowing sphere. A massive torrent of red energy violently explodes from within the barrier. Arcados notices what happened, wondering if his old body is already reaching its limit. Taking advantage of the opening, Fungus uses his magic to conjure a flight spell. The two quickly soar up toward the dragon to continue the aerial combat. Arcados observes the enemies approaching, enveloped in their combat auras. Geisel demands the dragon's surrender. Stating the difference in their strength is obvious, Arcados firmly refuses, shouting that he will never surrender to demons like them. Upon hearing the stubborn response, Geisel merely mutters calmly that he understands. The terrible Oni warrior concludes that there is no longer any need for words. Geisel charges in a fury, swearing he will crush the life out of the legendary Dragon King. Arcados opens his maw and unleashes a breath of pure, brilliant, and destructive energy. A colossal beam of golden light strikes the general's red barrier directly. The clash between the two titanic powers causes a gigantic explosion in the skies. Geisel emerges furious from the flames, raising his massive stone club. The terrible general delivers a devastating punch directly against Arcados' body. The clash of titanic forces triggers a violent explosion of red and golden flames. Geisel attacks the Dragon King at point-blank range with an overwhelming physical blow. A colossal column of golden energy falls from the sky, carving a gigantic crater into the ground. Fungus offers immediate healing magic, but Geisel harshly refuses, telling him to back off. Geisel begins gathering a massive amount of dark power around his body. While the city of Draconia burns in flames in the background, the Oni general prepares his final strike. Seeing his soldiers dominate the enemy forces, Geisel declares that the battle ends here. The Oni general channels all of his destructive power directly into his fearsome stone club. A massive vortex of dark flames forms above the weakened Dragon King. Geisel bids the Dragon King farewell with extreme coldness before delivering the finishing blow. He fires the terrifying beam of concentrated energy directly at his helpless opponent. The devastating attack strikes the ground with full force, raising an immense column of red light. The titanic impact generates an intense glow that can be seen from miles away. A blinding wave of energy spreads across the entire canyon region. Destruction consumes everything in sight as dust and debris soar through the air, flying on their dragons. Noah and Commander Adelbalt quickly approach with their troops. They spot the massive reddish explosion occurring right in the heart of Draconia. Adelbalt is completely shocked to witness the sheer magnitude of the enemy's destructive power. Adelbalt falls into despair over the explosion, while Noah asserts that he must hurry even more. The group flies at maximum speed toward the epicenter of the terrible detonation. They finally arrive at the location, staring in horror at the trail of destruction inside the crater. At the bottom of the crater, Arcados lies defeated under the imposing watch of General Geisel. Infuriated, Adelbalt roars, asking what those monsters have done to Lord Arcados. The Dragonoid commander leaps from the air, wielding his massive axe directly against his rival. Adelbalt descends from the skies screaming in fury to deliver a brutal attack on Geisel. However, Geisel easily blocks the blow. Throwing the commander far away with a single punch, Adelbalt falls injured to the ground while Noah and his allies rush to assist him. Geisel arrogantly observes the situation, asserting that the outcome of the battle is already decided. He orders everyone to surrender immediately, so he will spare the lives of their citizens. Suddenly, a purple magic circle appears beneath the wounded Dragon King's chest. The dark magic cruelly pierces the dragon's chest, right where his power core is located. Arcados lets out a deep roar of pain, coughing up a large amount of blood. Noah notices the treacherous action. Left completely shocked by what he is witnessing, Fungus stealthily appears, ripping the valuable golden core from the fallen dragon's chest. The schemer leaps backward to escape with the artifact before Noah can reach him. Fungus firmly holds Arcados' glowing mana core, which radiates a divine energy. He laughs wickedly, commenting that sucking up to those fools has finally paid off, holding Arcados's core. Fungus celebrates that the ultimate power is finally in his hands. The villain laughs hysterically as he begins to absorb the immense strength of the golden core. Noah draws his sword and charges furiously, activating his flash of light and darkness to stop the enemy. Noah falls from the sky, delivering a cross-shaped slash infused with golden and purple energy against Fungus. The attack strikes the ground with extreme force, generating a powerful explosion of dust and rocks. Noah retreats, carefully observing the smokescreen while maintaining his combat stance. A monstrous, glowing hand firmly grips a magical blade infused with lightning. Fungus emerges with dragon wings and the golden core fused to his chest, radiating immense power. The young man recalls how the terrible downfall of the demon dragon kingdom occurred in his past life. The tragedy completely destroyed the magical superpower of Lumina Stella overnight. All the demigods or warriors sent to resolve the crisis ended up perishing there. Now, the true villain and culprit behind that immense disaster-class tragedy has just been born. Back in the present, Noah stares down the terrifying opponent hovering before him, covered in flames. Fungus laughs hysterically, reveling in the destructive power flowing through his entire body. Geisel observes his former ally from the ground, shocked to see the criminal's frightening transformation. Cease and Liliana quickly arrive at the battlefield. Leading the surviving soldiers, Noah grips his sword firmly, preparing for the most difficult battle of his life. Fungus concentrates a massive amount of magic in his claws while watching Draconia burn. He asks with disdain if he should test his new power, creating a massive sphere of dark energy. Fungus fires dozens of burning fire projectiles in all directions across the battlefield. The devastating rain of flames begins to fall directly upon the Oni army's own soldiers. The explosions strike the Onis with full violence, giving them no chance to defend themselves. The destructive bombardment sweeps through the warriors, spreading absolute chaos across the canyon. Fungus celebrates insanely, saying this is exactly the magnificent power he has always desired. Geisel screams in desperation and fury, demanding to know what the traitor is doing to his own troops. With coldness, Fungus merely replies that the Oni general is no longer of any use to him. The villain snaps his fingers with contempt to discharge his magic against his former ally. An overwhelming force strikes Geisel by surprise, pinning his massive body against the stone floor. The once feared Oni general roars in pure agony as he is relentlessly crushed by gravity. Fungus smiles sadistically at the suffering, swearing to inflict the same extreme pain upon the incompetents who banished him. He waves his hand in dismissal, warning that it is now his turn to trample all of his enemies. Geisel is forced against the ground with such violence that the solid rock cracks completely beneath him. The giant Oni lets out a final cry of pain as he is buried and defeated in a humiliating manner free of obstacles. Fungus plans to start by destroying both the Dragonoid and Oni tribes at once. Cease acts quickly, conjuring the Great Rock Collision with a massive blue magic circle. A gigantic rock appears in the skies. Falling at high speed toward the hovering villain, Liliana also attacks at the same time, activating her sacred treasure crystal magic in midair. A colossal and sharp blue crystal spike appears in the sky to reinforce the combined offensive. Sensing the approaching joint strike, Fungus merely looks up with mockery and curiosity. The massive crystal strikes the target with great force, generating a shockwave through the canyon. However, Fungus blocks the titanic impact without difficulty using only one of his hands. The villain begins cracking the sacred crystal simply by applying force with his monstrous claws. Fungus flashes a completely sadistic smile, coldly ordering them all to disappear from there. A colossal torrent of yellow energy violently explodes, destroying the sacred crystal. Fungus extends his claws, smiling insanely, boasting that he is the strongest for possessing both magic and dragon power. He conjures dozens of fire magic circles that project glowing swords into the air. Sizz watches with concern as a gigantic wave of golden projectiles descends toward him. With a completely sadistic look, Fungus directs his fist to initiate the rain of attacks. An relentless rain of sharp swords begins falling upon Sizz on the battlefield. Enveloped in blue lightning, the young Sizz runs at high speed to dodge the deadly blades. He stops abruptly, realizing that more energy projectiles continue to fall without pause. Sizz uses his sword skillfully to deflect and parry the villain's cutting attacks. The young man executes a rapid spin with his blade, creating a barrier of wind against the swords. He grits his teeth, feeling extreme exhaustion from the weight of Fungus's consecutive attacks. A massive beam of dark energy sweeps down from above to deliver a crushing blow against him. Sizz laments the situation of extreme danger while trying to withstand the relentless attack. Adalbalt quickly appears, calling out to the young Lord Sizz to protect him from the worst. The brave Dragonoid commander uses his large golden shield to absorb the direct impact. Adalbalt screams in agony as the terrible attack bypasses his defenses, throwing him far away. Noah falls into despair, furiously shouting the names of Adalbalt and his brother Sizz. He raises his head, glaring with deep hatred at the villain Fungus, hovering imposing in the sky. The young hero charges at high speed. Enveloped in his glowing yellow and purple auras, Fungus conjures several dark magic circles, asking sarcastically if Noah is next. Hundreds of sharp swords begin raining from the sky toward the advancing protagonist. Noah prepares his Twin Heavens Rupture mystical technique to clear a path through the rain. He also activates the mystical power of his holy dark eyes. To focus on the adversary, Noah delivers incredibly rapid slashes in the air, destroying all enemy projectiles. The hero suffers a few minor scratches, but remains focused on his charge amid the chaos Fungus sends, yet another massive wave of black swords to halt the young hero's advance. Noah feels the weight of exhaustion, realizing he won't be able to hold out for much longer. Sizz screams from afar with all his might, begging Noah to use his technique already. With determination, Noah dodges the black swords in the air, executing acrobatic maneuvers. The hero runs in a straight line, ignoring the blades, to try and hit the villain directly. He leaps swiftly, passing the final line of defense of the enemy swords. Noah propels his body upward amid a massive explosion of electricity. The protagonist collides directly against the opponent, generating a strong reddish flash. The young man widens his eyes, realizing his direct hit did not produce the desired effect. Liliana raises her sacred book to conjure a powerful protection for her allies' benefit. The mystical bard quickly projects her holy ring barrier to block the counterattack. Liliana screams with all her might, asking Noah to charge forward without hesitation. Noah lets out a fierce cry, throwing himself with everything toward his fearsome adversary. The hero concentrates all of his mystical strength into his blade to deliver the flash of light and darkness. Fungus laughs and mocks, saying he already knows that technique, and that mere monkeys never learn. Noah's impact against Fungus's shield generates a colossal explosion of purple and golden sparks. Noah grits his teeth, forcing the barrier, while Fungus smiles mockingly. Trusting in his defense, Noah uses a violent shockwave to successfully break through the enemy's energy barrier. Fungus begins to mock, saying it's a pity for Noah, without realizing what is about to occur. Noah's blade advances relentlessly, piercing through Fungus's reddish force field. The hero completely breaks through the opponent's defenses, charging like a bolt of lightning directly at him. Fungus falls into total panic, shocked to see his perfect barrier shattered. Noah strikes and pierces Fungus's chest with his magical blade, causing the villain to spit up blood. The trembling villain screams in pain, desperately asking what is happening to his body. The legendary magical sword penetrates deeply into the criminal's chest, right at the location of the core. With his opponent dominated, Noah raises his head, maintaining a cold stance beside Liliana. The hero calmly tells Fungus that he was far too overconfident in relying on the dragon's power. Trapped on the floating rock, Fungus begins to lose control over the immense magic he accumulated. Liliana keeps her spellbook open, attentive to any movement from the adversary nearby. Lord Arcados and the defeated Geisel lie fallen and weak on the battlefield. Fungus falls into desperation upon feeling all the accumulated power leaving his body. Fungus asks what he did, and Noah replies that he merely retrieved Arcados' absorbed core. The villain falls into deep denial, horrifiedly exclaiming that such a thing should be impossible. With a swift movement of his magical sword, Noah extracts the golden core from inside Fungus. The hero explains that he used the Dragon Ring sword, a weapon crafted to seal the power of dragons. Fungus begins losing his monstrous form, screaming in fury, demanding the core back. The villain lunges desperately in an attempt to reclaim his stolen power. Noah easily evades, coldly watching the villain plummet from above while screaming in anger. The young protagonist comments that the immense power of the Dragon King was simply too much for him to bear. Fungus crashes violently against the crater floor, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. Noah descends lightly, landing gracefully on the devastated battlefield, fallen and injured. Fungus fumes in rage, asking how the young man dares to stand in his way. The villain gathers his last reserve of mana, screaming that everything would be perfect without Noah around. He conjures dozens of magic portals in a desperate attempt to eliminate his opponent. Noah walks with calm steps, dodging the blasts of crystals with extreme ease. The protagonist maintains a cold, focused gaze as he corners his weakened enemy with a precise cut of his golden sword. Noah dissipates his opponent's last spells. The hero assumes a victorious stance as a massive golden aura glows behind him. Fungus trembles in terror upon seeing Noah's immense, intimidating shadow loom over him. Noah points his blade directly at the fallen villain's throat to conclude the battle. The criminal spits up blood, realizing he has been completely defeated by the protagonist with a clean slash. Noah neutralizes any chance of reaction from the leader strategist. At the brink of his demise, Fungus warns with hatred that the young man shouldn't celebrate victory too soon. He activates a purple seal on his chest, swearing to take everyone down with him and destroy the entire country. Fungus laughs insanely, giving up his own life to trigger a devastating self-destruction. Fungus laughs wickedly, ordering the jewel to devour everything once and for all. A massive beam of red light is fired directly from his chest toward the heavens. A colossal purple magic circle begins to open in the skies right above Noah. The dark magic rapidly expands, covering the entire mountainous region of Draconia. Noah observes the situation with concern, noting the massive amount of destructive mana emerging. Upon seeing the burning rocks descending, the protagonist realizes with shock that it is indeed Starfall. Several colossal meteors begin plummeting from the clouds, striking the mountain peaks. Liliana acts quickly, using her holy ring barrier to try and contain the onslaught. Adalbalt comments that they have already taken all countermeasures based on the warnings left by Lord Sizz. The burning meteors collide violently against Liliana's glowing honeycomb shield. Fungus laughs, warning them not to foolishly think that is all his magic can do. Noah and Liliana look up startled as they feel the pressure of the attack increase drastically. An even larger meteor wrapped in intense flames emerges above the fragile golden barrier. The massive glowing rock advances relentlessly to crush the group's defenses. The fading villain laughs out loud, satisfiedly declaring that this is finally the end for all of them. The colossal meteor collides directly against Liliana's shield, beginning to crack it completely. The holy barrier cannot withstand the weight of the impact, beginning to shatter before everyone's eyes. Sizz screams desperately that the protection has collapsed in an instant, urgently ordering everyone to run. Adalbalt fires back furiously, asking if the young lord is suggesting they abandon their country. Sizz argues with concern that everyone there will certainly perish if they are caught in that explosion. Noah tries to come up with a plan, wondering if his Kamui core could handle it, but knows it won't be enough. Liliana approaches, letting him know she will entrust all of her power to Noah, leaving the young man surprised. In her thoughts, the young bard decides she cannot allow Sizz to perish here under any circumstances. Sizz observes from a distance, highly tense, unable to understand what Liliana plans to do. She agrees to sacrifice her own holy magic, even if it costs her entire mystical strength. Book in hand, Liliana channels all of her soul's energy to perform the transfer. A colossal pillar of golden light envelops Noah as the saint's immense power is transmitted. The young girl closes her eyes, praying fervently as her body glows with pure divine energy. Liliana assumes her saint form, maintaining her prayer amid the torrent of light radiating from her. With tears in her eyes, she looks at Noah, sweetly asking him to accept her power. The beam of holy energy is shot into the skies, concentrating all divine force onto the protagonist. Liliana's spiritual projection hovers within the beam of light, letting him know she leaves all the rest to him. The young girl's golden spirit descends from the skies, quickly approaching Noah's body. The projection affectionately embraces the hero, fusing all of her spiritual energy directly into him. Noah is enveloped by a massive explosion of golden energy that illuminates the entire battlefield. Liliana falls unconscious to the ground after depleting her strength, while Noah re-emerges engulfed in flames. The young man accepts the sacrifice, seriously stating he accepts the power she entrusted to him. The system confirms the massive amount of holy energy received, releasing the limit of the Kamui core. Noah assumes his combat stance, activating the absolute principle of the Kamui style. The hero summons his powerful divine blade of stellar annihilation. To deliver the decisive blow, Noah concentrates all of his fury and the immense holy power inherited from Liliana into his blade. He raises the colossal, glowing divine blade, preparing to deliver the definitive strike. The hero screams with all his might for the terrible threat to be eliminated from this world. He delivers a devastating slash that projects a colossal pillar of golden light toward the sky. The attack hits the giant meteor head-on, instantly cracking the massive rock in half. The destructive energy of the divine blade slices through the meteor that threatened to destroy the entire kingdom. The colossal space rock explodes into tiny, harmless fragments that disperse into the air. Noah lands gracefully on the ground as the remnants of the explosion fall all around him. Sis observes with relief as the young Liliana rests safely, accompanied closely by Adalbalt. The dark clouds of dust dissipate, revealing a clear sky with the sun's brilliance re-emerging. Observing the pacified landscape, Noah comments in relief that with this, everything is finally over. Fallen on the ground and completely drained of strength, the villain Fungus lies defeated once and for all. An imposing voice praises Noah's beautiful strike, causing the hero to turn around in surprise upon recognizing it. Lying on the rocks, the legendary Lord Arcados weakly re-emerges to speak with the young man. If you want the next part, leave a like and comment.